The Earth has whispered secrets for millennia. Beneath its surface, hidden beneath the layers of time, lie the remnants of something older than we can comprehend. Forgotten ruins, monuments that defy the limits of our understanding. These are the echoes of a world long lost. But what if these were not the first civilizations? What if humanity, in its quest for progress, has risen and fallen before? Across ancient landscapes, from the depths of the Amazon to the deserts of Egypt, evidence points to a forgotten era, one where civilizations far more advanced than we thought once thrived. They left behind traces, fragments of knowledge that modern science cannot fully explain. But the question remains, were we the first to build the foundations of human civilization? Or did we inherit these lessons from those who came before us, only to see their world crumble and fade into myth? As we journey through time, through these mysteries, one question looms larger than all the rest. Did humanity rebuild itself after the fall? Or are we still standing on the shoulders of giants? So sit back, relax, and let's dive in. The Great Pyramid of Giza stands as a silent sentinel in the heart of the Egyptian desert. Its weathered limestone blocks catch the light of the setting sun, casting long shadows that stretch across the sand. A reminder of a time when the desert was not barren, but bustling with life and ambition. For over 4,500 years, this monument has defied the boundaries of time and logic, a testament to the ingenuity of the ancient Egyptians. Yet, even in the face of centuries of research, questions remain. Questions that go beyond what we know to the very heart of what is still unknown. How did the Egyptians build it? And more intriguingly, did they possess lost technologies, tools, or knowledge that have since slipped through the cracks of history? Mainstream scholars generally agree that the Egyptians constructed the Great Pyramid using a combination of skilled labor, basic tools, and ingenious engineering. The pyramid's massive stones, some weighing as much as 70 tons, were likely transported by sledges, ramps, and a meticulous workforce. Theories abound on how they were positioned with such precise accuracy, but the methods remain speculative, even as the archaeologists continue to study the site. What is certain is that, by all accounts, the pyramid was a feat of its time, an unmatched achievement for an ancient civilization. However, the more we examine the evidence, the more unsettling the questions become. The size, the precision, the alignment with the stars. How was it all achieved without the advanced tools and technology that we associate with later civilizations? This is where the intrigue begins. One of the most perplexing aspects of the pyramid's construction lies in its unparalleled precision. The Great Pyramid is aligned almost perfectly with the cardinal points: north, south, east, and west. Something that would be a remarkable feat even with modern instruments. But the Egyptians had no compasses, no sophisticated surveying tools, and yet their methods of alignment suggest a deep, almost mysterious understanding of geometry, astronomy, and engineering. The question lingers. Did they possess knowledge lost to time, perhaps a forgotten technique or tool that allowed them to achieve what seems impossible? Some suggest the ancient Egyptians may have had access to lost technologies, perhaps even an understanding of energy sources that we can barely begin to fathom today. One theory, popularized by fringe researchers, proposes that they may have used some form of acoustic levitation, using sound waves to move and position the enormous stones. Though unproven, such ideas spark fascination. Could the Egyptians have harnessed the power of sound in a way we've only begun to understand? Could they have unlocked the secrets of vibration and resonance, manipulating the very fabric of the materials they worked with to make the impossible possible? Then there are the more mystical theories. The ancient Egyptians were deeply connected to the stars, particularly the constellation of Orion, which they believed to be the home of Osiris, the god of the afterlife. The pyramids of Giza are aligned with remarkable precision to this constellation, but the alignment is not perfect, not in the way modern astronomy would predict. Some speculate that this inaccuracy may be intentional, a deliberate attempt by the builders to encode deeper knowledge into the very structure of the pyramids. Could this misalignment be a sign of a more complex, lost understanding of the cosmos? A kind of astral blueprint, one that has yet to be fully decoded. Among the most compelling and enduring mysteries is the material composition of the Great Pyramid itself. The outer casing stones, now mostly gone, were made of a type of limestone that was quarried miles away from Giza. Some of the inner stones, particularly in the king's chamber, are composed of granite that comes from Aswan, located over 500 miles south. The process of quarrying and transporting these materials, especially considering the technology of the time, seems almost inconceivable. How could the Egyptians have transported such massive stones with the precision and speed required for such a monumental task? No known methods of transportation would seem to be sufficient to handle these challenges, at least none that we have fully explained. Interestingly, some researchers have pointed to a peculiar feature found in the king's chamber: the smooth, almost polished finish of the granite blocks. The surface of these blocks is so fine that it has led some to wonder if they were worked with a technology capable of melting or shaping the material at a molecular level, something far beyond what conventional tools of the time could achieve. Could the Egyptians have used high-frequency vibrations, heat, or other unknown methods to manipulate stone in ways we are only beginning to experiment with today? While these ideas often sound speculative, they raise larger questions about our understanding of ancient technologies and the potential that what we regard as primitive may have been far more advanced than we imagine. Perhaps the Egyptians didn't have lost technologies in the sense that we might think, but rather different understanding of the natural world, an understanding that allowed them to achieve feats that our modern minds struggle to comprehend. What we know for sure is that the Egyptians left behind more than just the physical pyramids. They left a legacy of wonder and mystery that continues to inspire us to this day. Despite the many explanations offered over the centuries, no single theory has ever fully satisfied the puzzle. Each new discovery only seems to add more layers to the enigma, as though the ancient Egyptians were somehow trying to communicate something beyond the bounds of time itself. As we look to the past, perhaps we are reminded that there is still much we do not understand, not just about the Egyptians, but about the potential of human achievement in the distant past. What knowledge might still lie hidden beneath the sands, waiting to be uncovered? Could we one day rediscover lost technologies that will reshape our understanding of the ancient world, or even change the course of our future? The mystery is far from over, and so we must ask ourselves, what else remains hidden just out of reach? As we turn our gaze from the ancient sands of Egypt to the dense jungles of Central America, we find another civilization whose achievements continue to stir awe and curiosity: the Maya. Nestled in the heart of the Yucatan Peninsula, the ruins of their cities rise from the forest floor, their towering pyramids and intricately carved stonework a testament to a society that, like the Egyptians, reached heights of sophistication that seemed to defy the tools of their time. But perhaps one of the most remarkable aspects of the Maya civilization isn't found in their architecture or art, but in their celestial knowledge, an understanding of the stars, the planets, and the movements of the heavens that was centuries ahead of what many would have thought possible. Take, for example, the observatory at Uaxactún, one of the oldest and most significant Maya sites in Guatemala. From its platform, you can look out over a vast expanse of jungle, Yet all around you are the echoes of a society that built its very culture around the stars. The Maya were not just astronomers. They were stargazers in the truest sense of the word, interpreting the sky as an intricate and ever-changing narrative that governed not only the cycles of nature, but the lives of every individual. They saw the cosmos as a mirror to life on Earth. Each event in the sky, whether a solar eclipse, the movements of Venus, or the alignment of the planets, was a powerful signal that had meaning for the Maya people. The Maya created incredibly precise calendars, the most famous of which is the Tzolk'in, a 260-day ritual calendar that governed their religious and agricultural life. But even more impressive is the Hab calendar, a 365-day solar calendar that almost perfectly matched the length of a year. Calculated to a precision that modern societies would only achieve many centuries later, the Maya didn't just track time, they understood it in a way that still eludes us. They knew the cycle of the planets, the orbit of Venus, and the periodicity of the eclipses with astonishing accuracy, often centuries ahead of European astronomers. This celestial knowledge wasn't simply a matter of observation, it was embedded in every aspect of Maya life. The movements of Venus, for example, were closely linked to religious rituals. The Maya saw Venus as a divine messenger, its appearance marking important moments in the cycles of the world. When Venus rose in the morning sky, it was seen as the herald of creation, a signal of divine power and renewal. And when Venus disappeared, it signified a time of darkness, a moment of cosmic transformation. These phenomena were not random to the Maya. They were woven into the fabric of their mythology, their rituals, and their understanding of the universe. But how did they come to such a profound understanding of the cosmos? The Maya lacked telescopes, and their knowledge was passed down through generations without the benefit of modern scientific tools. Yet, they were able to map the night sky with extraordinary precision. How? The mainstream explanation suggests that the Maya, like many ancient civilizations, relied on naked-eye observation and long periods of meticulous record-keeping. The creation of their calendars was not an accident. It was the result of centuries of careful study, observation, and correlation. They charted the movements of the planets and stars, tracked eclipses, and constructed observatories like the one at Uashaktun, where they could study the heavens in the clearest possible way. Yet, even with this explanation, some questions linger. The Dresden Codex, one of the few surviving Maya manuscripts, contains a set of astronomical tables so precise that they have been described as surpassing the accuracy of later European astronomical charts. Some of these tables predict the cycles of Venus and eclipses with an uncanny precision, far beyond what we would expect from a culture without the use of telescopes or modern instruments. The Codex is a relic of a civilization that seemed to have mastered the skies long before Western science caught up. This leads us to wonder, did the Maya possess knowledge that was not only the result of careful observation, but of something more? Could there have been a lost technology or a method of observation that allowed them to achieve such extraordinary accuracy without the instruments we rely on today? There are those who speculate that the Maya may have had access to a type of ancient technology that we have yet to fully uncover. Some theories suggest that the Maya may have utilized something akin to the electromagnetic properties of the Earth, a kind of energetic field that they may have known how to tap into in their constructions and observations. Could they have used such a method to enhance their ability to observe the stars with greater clarity without the need for telescopes? Could there have been a deeper connection between their structures and the heavens, a kind of ancient technology that we no longer understand? One intriguing, though highly speculative idea proposes that the Maya may have used sound or other natural forces in a way that we have yet to rediscover. Some researchers point to the fact that the Maya constructed their observatories in areas where the Earth's magnetic field is particularly strong. Could they have known something about the Earth's energies, about the power of the land itself, that allowed them to build such precise structures? Perhaps even more tantalizing is the suggestion that the Maya were not simply tracking celestial events for practical purposes like agriculture or ritual. They may have been trying to unlock a deeper cosmic secret. The precise alignment of their temples, the geometric layouts of their cities, and the accuracy of their calendars could all point to an understanding of the universe that we are only just beginning to comprehend. Some suggest that the Maya believed the cosmos itself could be navigated, not just observed, that the movements of the planets held the key to unlocking hidden dimensions of space and time. Did the Maya, in their pursuit of understanding, uncover knowledge that transcended the physical world and reached into the metaphysical? The more we uncover about the Maya and their extraordinary relationship with the stars, the more we are left with a sense of awe and a lingering sense of mystery. While many of their achievements can be explained by their advanced observational techniques and intellectual rigor, there are still elements of their astronomical knowledge that remain unexplained. The precision of their calculations, the spiritual significance they attached to celestial events, and the seemingly unfathomable depth of their understanding all suggest that there may be much more to the story. As we continue to explore the legacy of the Maya, one question remains: what else could they have known? And, more intriguingly, what of their knowledge has been lost to time, buried beneath centuries of jungle growth and forgotten histories? The Maya left behind a trail of celestial wonder, but much of the path remains hidden in the stars. Could we too uncover the keys to their ancient wisdom, or will we forever be looking up, searching for answers that may never come? As the sun sets over the ruins of Babylon, the city once known as the Gate of the Gods, the air hums with the echoes of a forgotten civilization. The wind sweeps across the vast plain, stirring the remnants of what was once one of the most advanced and powerful cities in the ancient world. Today, all that remains are the crumbling foundations, the worn stones, and the shadows of a history that continues to captivate the imagination. Yet, in these ruins, one cannot help but wonder, how did the Babylonians, whose city rose in the heart of the Mesopotamian desert, achieve such monumental feats of architecture, feats that seem to defy the very limitations of their time? The Ishtar Gate, with its imposing blue-glazed brickwork and intricate depictions of mythical animals, still stands as a testament to Babylon's architectural brilliance. Built in the 6th century BCE, this gate was more than a mere entrance. It was a symbol of the city's grandeur and its deep connection to the divine. But it's not just the grandeur of these structures that continues to fascinate. It's the very way in which they were conceived and constructed. How did the Babylonians achieve such precise craftsmanship in an age before cranes, modern engineering tools, or advanced construction techniques? Take, for example, the Ziggurat of Etemenanke, the towering step pyramid that was said to be the inspiration for the biblical Tower of Babel. This structure, once soaring over the city, was an architectural marvel, reaching a height that would have been impressive even in the modern era. Its purpose was not simply functional, it was a spiritual center, dedicated to the god Marduk. Yet the scale and complexity of such a monument raise immediate questions. How could the Babylonians have built a structure of this size with the tools available to them? What technologies or techniques might they have used to lift and position such massive stones, or to create the precise measurements required to achieve the ziggurat's symmetrical design? Mainstream scholars attribute Babylonian architectural advancements to their mastery of mud brick construction, combined with a thorough understanding of geometry and mathematics. The Babylonians were among the first to use the cuneiform script for record-keeping, which allowed them to document measurements, building plans, and astronomical observations with remarkable precision. The walls of the city were reinforced with massive mud brick ramparts, and their palaces were decorated with glazed tiles and vibrant reliefs, all of which displayed a highly advanced understanding of materials and design. These were not merely structures built for function. They were works of art, infused with meaning, mythology, and an enduring sense of cosmic order. However, the true scope of their achievements raises questions that go beyond the conventional explanations. For example, the layout of Babylon itself, its streets, gates, and ceremonial spaces, was designed with an almost supernatural precision. The city's plan was centered around the idea of balance and harmony, with major temples and the royal palace aligned to key astronomical phenomena. The city was not only a physical space, but also a cosmological one, a reflection of the Babylonian belief that the gods had ordered the universe in a precise and meaningful way. Yet, there are still peculiarities that cannot be fully explained by these traditional explanations. Take, for instance, the construction of the Hanging Gardens of Babylon, one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. Though its existence remains debated, some argue it was located in Nineveh rather than Babylon. The descriptions of the gardens suggest a marvel of engineering. These terraced gardens, allegedly built by King Nebuchadnezzar II for his queen, were said to feature an advanced irrigation system capable of transporting water to the top of a massive structure in the heart of the desert. How could a civilization so dependent on the Tigris and Euphrates rivers have developed such a complex irrigation technology to move water hundreds of feet into the air, especially in a region where water was scarce? Traditional theories suggest that the Babylonians used a combination of human labor, gravity, and aqueducts to bring water to the gardens. But this raises a key question. What kind of advanced water engineering might have been required to sustain such an oasis in the desert? Was there a more sophisticated method at play? Perhaps an unknown form of hydraulic technology or a forgotten system of pumps that would have allowed the Babylonians to achieve such a feat? Some fringe theories even propose that the Babylonians may have had access to technologies that seem ahead of their time, perhaps even technologies lost to history. There are those who suggest that the Babylonians, like the Egyptians, may have possessed knowledge of energy sources or mechanical devices that allowed them to manipulate materials in ways that modern engineering has only recently begun to understand. Could the Babylonians have harnessed some form of energy, be it from the Earth's magnetic field, solar power, or even something more esoteric, that enabled them to construct such grand structures without the reliance on modern tools? Was there some secret, passed down from ancient engineers or perhaps rediscovered by later civilizations, that we have yet to uncover? Perhaps the most compelling mystery of Babylonian architecture lies in their knowledge of geometry and mathematics. The Babylonians were far ahead of their contemporaries in their understanding of these disciplines. They developed a sophisticated system of mathematics based on the number 60, which is still used today in our system of timekeeping and measuring angles. But what might this knowledge have allowed them to do in terms of construction? Could their advanced understanding of geometry have given them the ability to design and build structures with such precision that we still marvel at their symmetry and scale today? The Babylonians, like the Egyptians, believed that their achievements were divinely inspired. Their kings were seen as earthly representatives of the gods, and their architecture was meant to honor the divine order of the cosmos. But did their gods bestow upon them a hidden knowledge, perhaps a forgotten technology, that allowed them to achieve the impossible? Or were they simply masterful engineers, their innovations built on centuries of trial, error, and observation? As we continue to explore the ruins of ancient Babylon, we find that each stone, each brick, and each inscription offers a glimpse into a civilization that was both remarkably advanced and deeply mysterious. While many of their accomplishments can be explained by the ingenuity of human effort and the use of available materials, there remain elements of their architecture and engineering that continue to defy easy answers. The Babylonians were, without question, masters of their craft. But were they also the keepers of knowledge that has since been lost to time? As we stand in the shadows of their great city, we can only wonder what secrets of Babylonian architecture might still be buried beneath the sands of history, and how much of their knowledge, passed down through generations, might have vanished into the depths of time, never to be fully understood again. As the sun rises over the ancient city of Mohenjo-Daro, its golden rays illuminate a landscape that has remained largely unchanged for millennia. In the vast expanse of the Indus Valley, the ruins of this once thriving civilization lie half-buried beneath the sands of time. The streets are eerily quiet now, the sounds of bustling life long faded. Yet, despite the passage of centuries, the foundations of Mohenjo-Daro, as well as other Indus Valley sites like Harappa, continue to hold a deep and unsettling mystery. How did the people of this ancient civilization, whose cities were more advanced in some ways than those of their contemporaries, achieve such feats of urban planning, technology, and engineering? And what knowledge, perhaps even lost technologies, might they have possessed that we are only beginning to understand? The layout of Mohenjo-Daro, one of the major cities of the Indus Valley civilization, is a marvel of urban design. The city was meticulously planned, with wide streets laid out in a grid pattern, much like modern cities. The buildings were constructed with standardized, kiln-fired bricks, a feat that required not only advanced technology but also a level of organization that was unparalleled at the time. Public baths, such as the Great Bath of Mohenjo-Daro, are also notable features. Massive structures designed for communal bathing, and possibly for ritual purposes. Yet, it is not just the city's organization that sparks intrigue. It is the fact that despite its advanced planning, the Indus Valley civilization vanished without a clear explanation. What happened to this incredibly sophisticated society? And perhaps more importantly, what secrets might they have left behind? At first glance, the Indus Valley people seem to rely on relatively simple tools and techniques, nothing extraordinary by today's standards. They didn't leave behind grand monuments or monumental architecture like the Egyptians or Babylonians. And yet, the technological feats they accomplished remain stunning. The drainage system in Mohenjo-Daro, for example, was far more advanced than anything found in most ancient cities. Streets were lined with drains, many of which were covered with bricks, showing a remarkable understanding of hygiene and urban infrastructure. Water was carefully channeled and waste was efficiently removed, systems that would only be implemented in many modern cities thousands of years later. But if the Indus Valley people were able to build such advanced infrastructure, what else might they have known? Could they have possessed technologies that we are only beginning to uncover? Tools, materials, or methods that were lost to history? One of the most intriguing mysteries surrounding the Indus Valley civilization involves the mysterious seals that have been found throughout their cities. These small, intricately carved pieces of material, often made of steatite, depict animals, geometric shapes, and sometimes enigmatic figures, leading some to suggest that these seals may have held some kind of deeper symbolic or technological significance. The presence of these seals, found in large numbers in both urban and rural contexts, suggests that the people of the Indus Valley had a highly developed understanding of writing, and yet their script remains undeciphered to this day. Some researchers have speculated that the Indus Valley script may represent more than just a form of communication. It could also hold clues to a more esoteric knowledge, perhaps related to the advanced technologies the civilization may have known. Could these seals, with their precise and complex carvings, have been used in some kind of ritual or ceremonial context? Some theories suggest that they could have been part of a larger system of hidden technologies, perhaps used to encode information about advanced scientific principles or even unknown forms of energy. Another tantalizing mystery comes from the discovery of the so-called flying machines in ancient Indian texts such as the Vimana, mythical aerial vehicles described in the Mahabharata and Ramayana, ancient epics that date back thousands of years. These texts describe highly advanced machines capable of flight, powered by mysterious, almost supernatural forces. While mainstream scholars have dismissed these accounts as mythological or allegorical, some researchers have suggested that the descriptions might reflect a hidden reality, perhaps the memory of a lost technology, one that existed long before modern aviation. Could the ancient Indians have developed the ability to harness the forces of flight, possibly through some form of energy or propulsion that has since been forgotten? Such theories, while speculative, point to a deeper question. What if the civilizations of ancient India, much like the Maya or the Egyptians, possessed a body of knowledge that we are only beginning to understand today? The Vedic texts, which are believed to have been composed around 1500 BCE, contain references to advanced scientific concepts such as the movements of the planets and stars, the nature of the universe, and the principles of energy. The Surya Siddhanta, an ancient Indian astronomical treatise, accurately describes the length of a year, the movements of celestial bodies, and the concept of the Earth's axial tilt, a knowledge that would not be replicated in the West for centuries. Could this astronomical knowledge have been tied to the development of more practical technologies, such as energy manipulation or advanced mechanical devices? Another fascinating piece of the puzzle lies in the ancient Indian texts that describe the use of a mysterious substance known as soma. The Rig Veda, one of the oldest sacred texts in the world, mentions soma as both a god and a drink that bestows immortality and great wisdom. The exact nature of soma has been lost to history, but some have speculated that it could have been a substance with extraordinary properties, perhaps a form of plant-based or chemical compound that had practical as well as spiritual significance. Could soma have been an early form of an energy-rich substance, perhaps used in some kind of advanced technology or ritual? Or was it a clue to a larger system of knowledge that was once available but has since been forgotten? The more we look at the evidence, the more we find ourselves asking, did the ancient civilizations of India possess a knowledge of the natural world that was so advanced, so far beyond what we understand today, that it has been lost to history? Could the technologies they developed, whether in architecture, engineering, or even energy manipulation, have been more advanced than we ever imagined? As we delve deeper into the remains of the Indus Valley Civilization, the Vedic texts, Nihuma, and the ancient myths that continue to be passed down, one thing becomes increasingly clear. There is much we do not know about the ancient world. Whether it is the lost technologies that might have powered Vimanas, the mysterious symbolism encoded in the Indus seals, or the advanced astronomical knowledge embedded in ancient scriptures, the question remains, what have we truly forgotten, and what is still waiting to be rediscovered? The mysteries of ancient Indian civilization may be more profound than we can yet comprehend. As we continue our journey through the mists of ancient civilizations, we turn to a land where the mysteries of the past seem as ancient as the rivers themselves. In the dense forests and along the sacred banks of the Ganges, the traces of the Hindu civilization stretch back thousands of years, far beyond what most historians have fully explored. From the early cities of the Indus Valley to the towering temples of later centuries, there is an undeniable thread of knowledge that runs through Hindu culture, a thread that binds mathematics, astronomy, philosophy, and science in a way that still mystifies us today. The city of Varanasi, one of the holiest and oldest continuously inhabited cities in the world, stands as a living testament to this enduring legacy. As the early morning light breaks over the river, casting long shadows across the Ghats, one is reminded of the ancient texts and scriptures that have shaped not only this land, but much of the spiritual and intellectual history of humanity. Yet beneath the sacred rituals and the centuries-old temples, there lies a deeper mystery, a scientific understanding, perhaps unfathomable to us, embedded in the very fabric of Hindu thought. One of the earliest recorded texts to emerge from this civilization is the Rig Veda, a collection of hymns that date back over 3,000 years. While the Rig Veda is primarily a religious text, it contains within its verses a strikingly advanced understanding of natural phenomena. In it, we find references to the structure of the cosmos, the nature of time, and the very forces that govern existence, ideas that in many ways parallel modern scientific concepts. The Rig Veda speaks of the universe as a vast, interconnected web, where the celestial bodies move according to precise laws, and where even the smallest actions on Earth have cosmic significance. How did the ancient Hindu sages, thousands of years ago, come to such an intimate understanding of the universe? The modern world is quick to dismiss these early texts as mythological, seeing the gods and cosmic forces as poetic metaphors. Yet the language of the Rig Veda, when carefully examined, seems to describe real scientific phenomena, astronomical cycles, the movement of the planets, and even the very structure of matter. Consider the concept of the atom, for example. The ancient Hindus are believed to have formulated a theory of the atom known as Paramanu, long before it was discovered by modern science. In the sutra texts, we find references to the idea that all matter is made up of indivisible particles, which is a concept that was rediscovered in the West only in the 19th century. But the Hindu notion of the Paramanu went even further, proposing that these particles were not simply physical, they were imbued with spiritual energy. The link between material and spiritual realms, a recurring theme in Hindu thought, suggests that their understanding of the atom was not confined to the physical sciences as we know them today. Instead, it was part of a larger, holistic view of the cosmos, one where science and spirituality were not separate but intertwined. Yet, even more remarkable than their conception of the atom is the way in which Hindu thought appears to have anticipated some of the most profound principles of modern physics. In the Upanishads, another cornerstone of ancient Hindu philosophy, we encounter descriptions of an invisible, underlying force that pervades the universe. This force, known as Brahman, is described as both immanent and transcendent, existing at the heart of all creation. It is from Brahman that everything in the universe arises and ultimately returns, a concept that bears a striking resemblance to modern ideas in quantum mechanics, where the observer is seen as affecting the very fabric of reality. Could it be that ancient Hindu thought, long before the advent of modern scientific inquiry, had already touched upon principles of physics that are only now being explored? The ancient sages, working without the aid of telescopes or particle accelerators, seemed to understand the nature of the cosmos on a level that remains difficult to fathom. They spoke of the cyclical nature of time, of the dissolution and recreation of the universe, ideas that align closely with contemporary theories of cosmology, such as the Big Bang and the Big Crunch. One of the most striking pieces of evidence that suggests an advanced understanding of science in ancient India comes from the study of their astronomical knowledge. The Hindu sages developed highly accurate methods of observing the stars and planets, leading to the creation of complex astronomical charts and calendars. The Surya Siddhanta, an ancient text believed to have been written around 400 CE, contains remarkably precise calculations of the length of the year, the positions of the planets, and even the tilt of the Earth's axis. In fact, the accuracy of these calculations when compared to modern astronomy is truly astounding. The Surya Siddhanta describes the Earth's circumference with remarkable precision, accurate to within a few hundred miles of the true figure. How did the ancients, without telescopes or advanced instruments, achieve such precision? What methods did they use to observe the heavens and calculate the movements of celestial bodies? One theory suggests that the ancient Hindus may have used a type of observational technique far more advanced than we have yet rediscovered. Could they have developed instruments, perhaps forgotten or lost to time, that allowed them to measure celestial distances or chart the stars with such uncanny accuracy? Or was their knowledge of astronomy not just based on observation but on a deeper, metaphysical understanding of the universe, one that connected the movements of the stars to the very rhythms of human existence? This idea becomes even more compelling when we consider the many stories in Hindu mythology that describe divine beings possessing knowledge of technologies far beyond those of mere mortals. The Vimanas, the flying machines mentioned in the ancient texts, are often described as powered by mysterious forces, capable of great feats of speed and agility. While many scholars dismiss these stories as mythological exaggerations, could they be recalling the memory of some form of advanced technology, lost to time, used in the distant past? The concept of flight, after all, was not only a central theme in the epics, but also in the technological aspirations of later civilizations. The question we must ask, then, is this: was there a time when ancient Hindu civilization possessed a level of scientific knowledge that far exceeded what we imagine possible for its time? Could their understanding of the universe, deeply intertwined with their spiritual beliefs, have led them to unlock hidden technologies, secrets that have since been lost, forgotten, or concealed? As we dig deeper into the sacred texts, the scientific principles embedded in the Vedas, and the technological marvels that may have existed, we are left with more questions than answers. What knowledge, perhaps once shared across the ancient world, was hidden within these teachings? What unfathomable science did the ancient Hindus understand? And what remnants of that knowledge still remain buried beneath layers of history? Perhaps the greatest mystery of all is not that they knew so much, but that we have yet to fully comprehend what they understood. How much of their knowledge remains locked away, waiting to be rediscovered? And could it change the way we view not only our past, but the very nature of reality itself? Beneath the burning Egyptian sun, the Great Pyramid of Giza stands, a colossal monument that has withstood the test of time for over 4,500 years. As you approach, the immense scale of the structure becomes overwhelming. It towers above the desert, casting a long shadow across the plateau, its smooth stone surface reflecting the intense sunlight. It's difficult to fathom how such a massive structure was built with the tools and resources available at the time. The questions that have surrounded its construction for centuries seem almost as enduring as the pyramid itself. How were these immense stones cut with such precision? What methods were used to transport them across the vast distances from quarries? And perhaps most intriguingly, what secrets might the pharaohs have held regarding the construction of these monuments? Secrets that remain hidden even today. At the heart of these questions lies the figure of the pharaoh, whose power and influence were said to be divine. The pharaohs of ancient Egypt were not only political leaders, they were considered gods on earth, the living embodiment of the god's will. Their monumental tombs, the pyramids, were built not just as tombs but as symbols of their divine status and their connection to the afterlife. The Great Pyramid of Khufu, for example, is not merely a burial site, but a grand expression of cosmic order, precision, and spiritual significance. Yet, despite the grandeur and precision of these structures, the exact methods used to construct them remain one of history's most enduring mysteries. Mainstream archaeologists and Egyptologists have offered various explanations: massive labor forces of thousands of workers, intricate ramps, and basic tools of copper and stone. But these explanations, while plausible, seem to fall short when you examine the scale and complexity of the project. Consider the sheer size of the stones used in the construction. The largest blocks, weighing up to 80 tons, were quarried from sites many miles away, and it's clear that some kind of advanced system must have been in place to transport these massive stones. Modern engineers struggle to replicate this feat using modern equipment. So, how did the Egyptians manage to transport and lift these massive blocks with only primitive tools? What kind of systems were in place that allowed such precision in the placement of each stone, as the blocks were stacked to form a perfect pyramid with near mathematical accuracy? The traditional explanation that large teams of laborers used ramps to haul the stones into place seems somewhat simplistic given the scale of the operation. Some theories propose that the Egyptians used a straight or zigzagging ramp system to move the massive stones up the sides of the pyramid. Others suggest a spiral ramp that wound around the pyramid's exterior. But even these solutions seem to raise more questions than answers. For one, no clear evidence of these ramps has been uncovered at the site of Giza. No remnants of the vast, complex structures that would have been necessary to move millions of tons of stone. Moreover, there is the question of the incredible precision with which the pyramid's stones were cut. The edges of the blocks fit together with such exactness that a single sheet of paper cannot fit between them. Some stones appear to have been polished to such a smooth surface that modern scientists have been unable to replicate the process with our current technology. Was there an advanced tool or technique that the ancient Egyptians used, perhaps a method now lost to history, that allowed them to achieve this degree of precision? Was there some form of technology that enabled them to cut and shape these stones in ways we cannot yet comprehend? Some fringe theories propose that the ancient Egyptians may have had access to tools or techniques that were far beyond the capabilities of their time. Some suggest the use of lost technologies, perhaps advanced forms of metalworking, or even energy-based methods that allowed the Egyptians to manipulate matter in ways we still don't understand. Could the ancient Egyptians have had access to some form of stone-melting technology, or perhaps they harnessed sound or vibration to move and shape the massive blocks? There are also more speculative ideas that propose the use of levitation techniques, inspired by the legends of flying objects in ancient texts. Could the Egyptians have discovered a way to manipulate gravity or harness some kind of anti-gravity force? The idea might sound like science fiction, but ancient cultures all over the world have myths and stories about gods or advanced beings who could move heavy objects with ease. Is it possible that these stories have a kernel of truth and that the pyramid builders knew something we have long forgotten? One of the most fascinating aspects of the pyramid construction theory lies in the alignment and positioning of the pyramids themselves. The Great Pyramid is aligned so precisely with the cardinal points, north, south, east, and west, that modern technology would be required to achieve such an alignment. This level of accuracy suggests an extraordinary understanding of astronomy and mathematics. The Egyptians used a method of measuring known as the merket, a primitive tool resembling a plumb line and sighting instrument, to align their structures. But how did they know the precise dimensions of the Earth? How were they able to achieve such an alignment without modern instruments? The internal chambers of the Great Pyramid also present a mystery. The so-called King's Chamber is constructed entirely from granite blocks, and the precision with which they were placed is nothing short of remarkable. The chamber itself is also positioned at the exact center of the pyramid, suggesting an advanced understanding of spatial geometry and symmetry. But more than just the physical construction, there is the symbolic purpose behind the pyramid itself. It's widely believed that the pyramid was designed as a way for the pharaoh to ascend to the heavens and join the gods in the afterlife. The precision with which the pyramid was constructed may reflect the deep spiritual and metaphysical knowledge of the Egyptians, a knowledge that extended far beyond mere construction techniques and into the realm of cosmic order. In some ways, the mystery of the pyramid construction is not just about how they were built, but why they were built in such an extraordinary way. The Egyptians clearly believed that these structures were imbued with sacred power, an energy that connected the pharaohs with the divine. Could the pyramids themselves have been more than just tombs? Could they have functioned as a kind of machine designed to channel and amplify cosmic forces, or perhaps even to facilitate the pharaoh's passage to the afterlife in ways we cannot yet fully understand? The theories surrounding the construction of the pyramids are as varied as they are captivating. While many aspects of the construction process remain elusive, there are hints, perhaps buried deep within the structure itself, that point to a lost knowledge, a forgotten science that the Egyptians possessed. From the precision of the stones, to the alignment of the pyramids, to the mysterious methods of construction, the questions only multiply as we dig deeper into the past. Were the pharaohs simply master architects, or did they possess knowledge of an ancient science that has been lost to time? The Great Pyramid remains a testament to human ingenuity, but it also stands as an open question. What were the pharaohs truly capable of, and what secrets did they keep hidden within their monumental structures? As we continue to explore these mysteries, we are left with one undeniable conclusion. There is much about the ancient world that remains beyond our understanding. The pyramids, much like the pharaohs themselves, continue to guard their secrets, standing as eternal symbols of a lost era, a time when the boundaries of science, engineering, and spirituality may have been far more fluid than we ever imagined. As we continue to journey through the ancient world, moving from the sands of Egypt to the fertile crescent of Mesopotamia, we arrive at the mighty civilization of the Assyrians. The ruins of their cities lie scattered across the modern-day lands of Iraq, Syria, and Turkey, silent remnants of a once feared empire that dominated the ancient Near East for over 1,000 years. Here, amidst the arid plains and the deep river valleys, one cannot help but feel the weight of history pressing down. The Assyrians, known for their military prowess and brutal conquests, also left behind a legacy of architectural wonder, monuments and palaces that speak not only to their strength, but also to an advanced level of technological achievement. But were these feats of construction truly the result of conventional tools and methods, or did the Assyrians possess knowledge that has since been lost to time? Consider the grand city of Nineveh, the capital of the Assyrian Empire under kings like Sennacherib and Ashurbanipal. The city's vast, walled fortifications still stretch across the landscape, remnants of once mighty walls that stood over 30 feet high and extended for miles. The walls themselves were reinforced with massive bastions, built to withstand not just the battering of time, but also the might of any invading force. But what is truly astonishing is the level of precision with which these walls were constructed. The stonework, though weathered, still shows evidence of advanced cutting techniques, blocks that fit together with such accuracy that it is difficult to slip even the thinnest of blades between them. How were these enormous stones cut, transported, and placed with such precision? The sheer scale of Assyrian architecture is mind-boggling. The royal palace of Sennacherib, constructed in the 7th century BCE, was a marvel of its time. Within its walls were intricate bas-reliefs that depicted everything from royal ceremonies to scenes of warfare. These artistic expressions, though impressive in their own right, were only one part of the story. The palace itself was a feat of engineering, with its carefully laid foundations, expansive courtyards, and sophisticated drainage systems. How did the Assyrians create such an elaborate and enduring structure without the advanced building materials and techniques that we take for granted today? Mainstream archaeological explanations suggest that the Assyrians, like their contemporaries, employed simple tools and a massive labor force to construct their palaces and fortifications. Ramps, pulleys, and simple cranes may have been used to transport and position the massive stone blocks. But even with these tools, the level of organization and coordination required for such large-scale projects remains impressive. Yet, as we stand among the ruins of Nineveh and other Assyrian sites, a more tantalizing possibility begins to emerge. Could it be that the Assyrians had access to advanced architectural technologies that have been forgotten by history? One of the most intriguing aspects of Assyrian architecture is the sheer precision with which their structures were built. The way stones were cut and fitted together so perfectly, without mortar in many cases, hints at a level of craftsmanship that would have been difficult to achieve with only basic tools. Were there advanced techniques, perhaps involving heat or vibration, that allowed the Assyrians to shape and fit the stones with such accuracy? Some theories suggest that the Assyrians may have used a form of early concrete or a similar binding agent that allowed them to construct their buildings more quickly and with greater precision. However, no conclusive evidence has been found to support these theories. Furthermore, the engineering marvels of Assyria were not limited to their royal palaces and city walls. The Assyrians were also skilled in water management, an essential aspect of sustaining life in the arid climate of the Near East. At Nineveh, the remains of an advanced aqueduct system have been uncovered, which brought water from distant sources into the heart of the city. The Assyrians built intricate canals, reservoirs, and cisterns that allowed them to store and distribute water throughout the city. These systems were so well engineered that many of them remained functional for centuries after the fall of the Assyrian Empire. How did the Assyrians develop such advanced water management techniques? And could they have been using knowledge that we have yet to rediscover? Perhaps even more astonishing is the discovery of the Assyrian winged bulls, massive statues with the bodies of lions and the heads of men or birds, often seen at the entrances of palaces and temples. These statues were not only artistic expressions but also served as guardians of sacred spaces, standing watch over the royal domains. What's most remarkable about these statues, however, is the sheer scale and level of detail. Each statue weighs several tons and was carved from a single block of stone. The level of precision required to create these monumental works of art, combined with their placement within the architecture, suggests that the Assyrians were not just master builders but also possessed a deep understanding of proportion, symmetry, and structural integrity. How, then, did the Assyrians manage to carve and transport these massive stones with such accuracy? While many have suggested that they employed skilled artisans and a large workforce, others have proposed more speculative theories. Could the Assyrians have had access to lost or forgotten technologies, perhaps even a rudimentary form of electricity or sound-based tools that enabled them to manipulate stone in ways that modern archaeologists struggle to replicate? Some believe that the Assyrians may have used advanced methods of acoustics, harnessing the power of sound waves to shape and move massive blocks with far less effort than would have been required using traditional techniques. While these ideas remain speculative, they open up fascinating possibilities. Could the Assyrians, known for their military might, also have possessed technological knowledge far beyond what we have yet uncovered? Could their architectural feats have been powered by a combination of advanced engineering, secret knowledge, and perhaps even forgotten tools or techniques? The mysteries of Assyrian architecture do not end with the monuments themselves. The very design of their cities, like Nineveh, seems to reflect an understanding of urban planning that goes beyond simple layout. The city was organized in such a way that every aspect, from the placement of buildings to the flow of water, was carefully designed to support the needs of the empire's rulers and its people. Could this sophisticated planning have been inspired by more than just practical concerns? Was there an underlying scientific or even mystical principle that guided the design of Assyrian cities, a principle that we have yet to fully understand? As we examine the ruins of Nineveh, Nimrud, and other Assyrian sites, it becomes clear that the architectural achievements of this civilization are not fully explained by traditional methods alone. The precision of their stonework, the scale of their construction, and the sophistication of their engineering systems suggest that the Assyrians were not simply using brute force or primitive tools. They may have been working with a knowledge or a technology that we are only beginning to comprehend. The question, then, is not simply how the Assyrians built such monumental structures, but what they knew that has been lost to history. Did they possess a form of architectural technology that was advanced for their time, one that could reshape the way we think about ancient civilizations? Or are we still missing some key piece of the puzzle? A hidden secret that could explain how the Assyrians achieved such feats of engineering. As we continue to explore the mysteries of the ancient world, one thing remains clear. The Assyrians, like many other ancient civilizations, were far more sophisticated than we often give them credit for. What else might we discover as we peel back the layers of time? The answer, perhaps, is waiting to be uncovered, hidden within the ruins of this long-forgotten empire. As we leave the bustling civilizations of the ancient Near East behind, our journey now takes us across vast oceans to one of the most isolated places on Earth, Easter Island. A small speck of land, barely 15 miles long, hidden in the heart of the Pacific Ocean, it is home to one of the world's most enigmatic legacies. Here, standing in solitary rows along the island's windswept shores, are the Moai, massive stone statues that have captivated the world for centuries. These towering figures, with their oversized heads and solemn expressions, have long been a symbol of the island's rich cultural history. But they also raise a profound question. How did the inhabitants of this remote island manage to construct and transport these monumental statues, some weighing over 80 tons, using the most basic of tools? Easter Island, or Rapa Nui, as it is known to its people, is a place shrouded in mystery. The island's isolation, surrounded by thousands of miles of open ocean, means that its inhabitants were cut off from the broader currents of ancient civilization. And yet, in a place so remote, the people of Rapa Nui managed to carve out one of the most remarkable achievements in human history: the creation of the Moai statues. These colossal figures, often towering over 10 feet high, are intricately carved from volcanic tuff and once stood as guardians of the island's spiritual and political power. But their creation and transportation remain one of the most perplexing challenges in the study of ancient engineering. The mainstream narrative suggests that the Moai were carved primarily from the volcanic rock found at the Rano Raraku quarry, located in the island's interior. Workers, using rudimentary stone tools, would have shaped the statues before moving them to their final locations around the island. The Moai were then placed on massive stone platforms called ahu, which were used as tombs for the island's leaders. However, the process of moving these massive statues across the island, sometimes over several miles of rough terrain, raises the question, how did they do it? With no draft animals, no wheel, and limited technology, the transportation of Moai should have been a daunting task, even for a skilled civilization. The accepted theory for moving the statues involves the use of ropes and a series of coordinated manpower, with workers walking in unison, using the ropes to walk the Moai upright to their destinations. While plausible, this explanation has not been without its critics. Some question whether such an elaborate system could have been effective on the rough and uneven terrain of the island. Could there have been a more sophisticated method, perhaps one that has been lost to time, that allowed these ancient people to move such colossal statues with greater ease? One of the most fascinating and mysterious aspects of the Moai is the level of precision with which they were carved. The detailed facial features, the delicate protrusions of the ears, and the carefully measured proportions of the bodies suggest that the Rapa Nui people possessed advanced knowledge of geometry, anatomy, and artistry. The question arises: how were they able to achieve such intricate details using only basic tools made from stone or bone? Some have speculated that the Rapa Nui may have had access to lost building techniques or tools that allowed them to carve with incredible precision. Could they have used advanced methods, perhaps tools or techniques that harness the energy of the earth, sound, or even heat to shape the stone? The idea might seem far-fetched, but as we explore the complexities of other ancient civilizations and their unexpected technological achievements, one is left to wonder if the Rapa Nui were also privy to forgotten knowledge that has since been lost. In addition to their skillful craftsmanship, the Moai also suggest a deeper understanding of the natural environment. Many of the statues align with specific points on the island, and their placement appears to have been carefully planned according to the direction of the sun, the island's topography, and even the stars. Could the Rapa Nui people have been using a form of astronomical knowledge that has been largely overlooked? Were the Moai not just statues of revered ancestors, but symbolic markers of celestial events, or perhaps even instruments designed to channel or harness cosmic energy? There is also the question of the purpose behind the Moai. Mainstream archaeology suggests that the statues were created to honor important ancestors, with each statue representing a revered leader or deity. The Moai were believed to possess spiritual power, known as mana, which was said to protect the people and ensure the prosperity of the land. But the Moai were not merely decorative. Their construction was part of a broader religious and political system, one in which the statues were thought to bestow authority upon the leaders who commissioned them. As such, the Moai represented not just a physical achievement, but a deeply spiritual and cultural one. Yet, as the statues were erected and the power of the ruling elites grew, so too did the island's social tensions. It is believed that by the 17th century, the island's environment had begun to suffer under the pressure of deforestation, overpopulation, and the demands of Moai construction. The once thriving civilization of Rapa Nui began to collapse, and the Moai statues were eventually toppled, their heads and bodies lying scattered across the island. What caused this dramatic decline? Could the rise of the Moai, symbolizing the power of the elites, have contributed to the social unrest that led to the island's downfall? Or was the island's ecological collapse, brought on by the overuse of resources, simply a consequence of the limited environment? As we ponder these questions, we are confronted with the larger mystery of Easter Island itself. How did such a small, isolated civilization develop such an advanced and complex system of construction and spirituality, only to fall into decline? Did they possess knowledge that we have yet to uncover? What other secrets might be hidden in the island's remote corners, buried beneath the weight of centuries? The story of Easter Island is one of both achievement and tragedy, a civilization that reached incredible heights only to fall victim to its own success. The Moai statues stand as silent sentinels, guarding their secrets, perhaps offering us glimpses into an ancient world of knowledge and innovation that we have only begun to understand. The questions remain. Did the Rapa Nui people possess advanced building techniques or tools that have been lost to time? Were the Moai more than just statues? Could they have had a deeper, more profound connection to the cosmos and the natural world? And what other mysteries does this isolated island, so rich in both history and enigma, still hold? The answers, like the Moai themselves, remain just beyond our grasp. As we shift our gaze from the distant island shores of Easter Island, we return to the heart of the ancient world, Mesopotamia, the cradle of civilization. Here, beneath the blistering sun of the Persian Gulf, stood the great city of Babylon. This ancient metropolis, renowned for its wealth and sophistication, was home to some of the most astonishing architectural feats the world had ever seen. Among these marvels, none were more awe-inspiring than the Ziggurats, massive, stepped pyramids that rose from the earth like great stone giants, their purpose shrouded in mystery, their construction a feat of engineering that still puzzles scholars today. One of the most famous of these Ziggurats was the Etemenanke, dedicated to the god Marduk, whose immense size and intricate design seem almost beyond the capabilities of the time. Rising nearly 300 feet into the air, an impressive height for an era long before cranes or mechanized tools, the Etemenanke was said to have been adorned with temples, terraces, and grand staircases, culminating in a shrine at its peak. To look upon it in its prime would have been to gaze at a wonder of the ancient world, a structure that symbolized both divine authority and human ambition. Yet, even now, as we stand upon the ruins of Babylon, the true purpose of these monumental structures remains unclear. Scholars agree that the Ziggurats were likely temples, dedicated spaces for worship, where priests and kings would commune with the gods. But what about the sheer scale and precision of their construction? How were these ancient builders able to create such grandiose structures with the limited tools at their disposal? What secrets of architectural engineering were they harnessing? For years, mainstream archaeology has offered its explanations. The construction of the Ziggurats, it is said, was a gradual process, with each step of the pyramid added over time. Workers, using a combination of ramps, pulleys, and levers, would have hauled the stone bricks, each carefully carved and set into place, one layer at a time. The Ziggurats' massive size would have required extensive manpower, and it's likely that the building was a communal effort, involving not only skilled stonemasons but thousands of laborers, each contributing to the construction of these towering monuments. Yet, despite these accepted theories, the questions persist. How could such a massive structure, with its intricate engineering, be achieved with only rudimentary tools? The stones used to build the Ziggurats were not just rough-hewn blocks of stone, but were often finely shaped and precisely placed. How did the Babylonians manage such precision in a time when their tools were no more than bronze or stone? Could they have possessed knowledge of architectural techniques that have been lost to history, techniques that are beyond our current understanding? Some suggest that the Babylonians were privy to methods of construction that we have yet to fully comprehend. Could there have been an ancient system of geometry or advanced surveying techniques that allowed them to achieve such precision? There are whispers among some scholars of the possibility that the Babylonians may have had access to knowledge far more advanced than we give them credit for, perhaps even technologies that were passed down from an earlier, forgotten civilization. Could the Ziggurats themselves be a relic of a time when humans knew how to harness the very forces of nature, using energy or methods that we have long since lost? The question of how the Babylonians achieved such feats of engineering is not limited to the design and construction of the Ziggurats alone. The very nature of their alignment and placement also raises intriguing possibilities. The Ziggurats were often aligned with celestial events, with their tops pointing toward certain stars or planets, and many researchers believe they served not just as temples, but as observatories, spaces from which priests could watch the heavens and predict the movements of the stars and planets. Could these structures have been more than just religious temples? Might they have also served as powerful astronomical instruments, allowing the Babylonians to chart the cosmos in ways that modern scientists are only beginning to understand? There are also the smaller, more mysterious details of the Ziggurats' design that seem to hint at a deeper, almost mystical purpose. The Ziggurats' multi-storied, tiered form may have symbolized the ascent of the soul, with each level representing a step closer to the divine. Some have speculated that the Ziggurats themselves could have been designed to harness certain energies or cosmic forces, their shape and placement acting as conduits for these unknown powers. Could these ancient structures have been more than mere buildings? Could they have been, in some sense, engines of a forgotten science, one that integrated both spiritual and physical forces in a way that we no longer understand? Then there is the curious case of the bricks used to construct the Ziggurats. Made of mud and baked in the sun, the bricks were impressively durable, with many surviving thousands of years despite the ravages of time and nature. But there is something unusual about the quality of these bricks, something that has puzzled researchers for years. Some of the bricks appear to have been coated with a form of resin or chemical treatment that would have made them extraordinarily strong and weather-resistant, qualities that were far ahead of their time. How did the Babylonians achieve such results with the materials available to them? Could they have possessed an early form of chemical engineering that has been lost to history? As we look at the ruins of these ancient monuments, it's impossible not to be struck by the sense that something more is at play here. The Ziggurats are not just buildings, they are symbols of power, knowledge, and mystery. They stand as reminders of a civilization that, in its heyday, appeared to have harnessed secrets of architecture, engineering, and astronomy that are still beyond our grasp. The Ziggurats of Babylon, in their silent majesty, continue to stand as guardians of a forgotten past. The mysteries of their construction remain unsolved, offering a tantalizing glimpse into a world where technology and spirituality may have converged in ways that we can only begin to imagine. What if the Babylonians knew something about the forces of nature, something that we have since forgotten? And could the secrets to their engineering achievements still be waiting to be uncovered, hidden beneath the sands of time? The questions linger, and as we continue our exploration of the advanced civilizations that may have preceded us, the Ziggurats remain a haunting reminder that there are still many secrets left to discover. What knowledge have we lost, and what might still be waiting to be revealed? As we move forward in our exploration of ancient civilizations and their extraordinary feats, there is one question that has lingered at the edges of history for centuries, a question so mind-bending it seems almost impossible to fathom. Could ancient civilizations have possessed the knowledge and technology for space travel? It is a concept so extraordinary that it challenges everything we think we know about the capabilities of past societies. But as we begin to look deeper, we find ourselves asking, could this be a story of fact or fiction? One of the most enduring mysteries lies within the walls of ancient texts and artifacts, many of which seem to suggest a far greater understanding of the cosmos than was previously thought possible. Take, for example, the Mahabharata, one of the oldest and most revered texts from ancient India. This epic, written thousands of years ago, is filled with vivid descriptions of flying machines, called vimanas, that were capable of traveling not only through the air, but potentially through space as well. These descriptions are startling in their detail. The vimanas are said to be equipped with powerful engines, able to travel at incredible speeds and even to unleash devastating weapons. Could these ancient depictions of flying machines be the work of myth? Or do they contain a kernel of truth, a glimpse into a technology lost to history? Similarly, across the globe in the Mayan civilization, we find evidence of astronomical knowledge that seems far ahead of its time. The Maya were known for their remarkable accuracy in tracking celestial bodies, including the movements of the planets and stars. In particular, their detailed observations of Venus, a planet associated with gods of war and creation, suggest a level of astronomical understanding that has only been matched in modern times with the advent of space exploration. Could the Maya, with their advanced knowledge of the heavens, have had some deeper connection to the stars? Were they aware of something beyond what we understand as earthly science? Perhaps one of the most intriguing and often debated examples of ancient space travel theory lies in the Nazca Lines of Peru. These vast and mysterious geoglyphs, which can only truly be appreciated from the air, form intricate shapes of animals, plants, and geometric patterns that span miles of desert land. Their purpose remains a subject of fierce debate. Some scholars argue that they were created for religious rituals, while others speculate they were designed as markers or messages for gods. However, an alternative theory proposes that these lines were created as visual signals to extraterrestrial visitors, or perhaps as a guide for those capable of flight. The idea that ancient civilizations were actively communicating with beings from other worlds seems outlandish to some, but it continues to be explored, as the purpose of the Nazca Lines remains a mystery. As we delve into these ancient references to flying machines, advanced technology, and celestial knowledge, it's essential to balance our curiosity with critical thinking. Could these ideas be the result of misinterpretations or exaggerations of more mundane occurrences? Could the stories of Vimanas, celestial gods, and flying machines simply be the product of metaphor, mythology, or symbolic representation? There are more grounded explanations, of course. Many historians and archaeologists suggest that these stories were purely allegorical, meant to convey deeper philosophical or religious truths rather than literal technological achievements. The Mahabharata, for instance, could simply be the imaginative work of its creators, a narrative crafted to explore themes of power, morality, and the relationship between humanity and the divine. Similarly, the Mayans' extraordinary understanding of the stars might have been based on sophisticated observation and mathematics, rather than any form of technological superiority. Even the Nazca Lines, while undeniably remarkable in their scope, might have been intended for ritualistic or ceremonial purposes, rather than as signals to beings from the stars. Yet, as we look closer, there are curious anomalies that refuse to be easily explained away. The Vimanas, while described in ancient texts as powerful flying machines, also appear to contain references to technology that seems surprisingly advanced, far beyond what was possible in ancient India. The Mahabharata itself speaks of astra weapons, nuclear-like devices capable of massive destruction. Could the Vimanas be describing ancient aircraft powered by a form of energy that we have not yet rediscovered? Could these ancient texts, steeped in symbolism and mysticism, be encoding knowledge of a civilization that achieved what we would now call space travel? Likewise, the Nazca Lines raise more questions than they answer. Some researchers have suggested that the purpose of these lines might be connected to astronomical phenomena, with their alignment indicating that the Nazca people had a much deeper understanding of the cosmos than we have been able to comprehend. Could these ancient people have been creating a celestial map, or could they have been marking the land in a way that communicated something to those who could traverse the skies? The fact that the lines can only be fully appreciated from the air only fuels the mystery further. Were they simply intended as symbols visible to gods or celestial beings, as some theorists suggest? Could there be an even more radical explanation to all of this? Could we be looking at the remnants of a lost civilization, one that achieved spacefaring technology long before we ever imagined possible. Such a theory remains largely speculative, but there are scholars who argue that there may have been advanced technological societies that preceded our recorded history, societies that vanished without a trace, but left behind clues scattered in the form of myth, symbol, and mysterious artifacts. Of course, we must be cautious in entertaining such ideas, as many of these theories veer into the realm of speculation without sufficient evidence. Ancient space travel, while an alluring concept, remains largely within the domain of fiction. Yet, as we uncover more about the ancient world, as we piece together the fragments of knowledge that these civilizations left behind, one can't help but wonder, could there be more to these ancient stories than we are able to understand today? Could the idea of space travel have been part of a hidden history? A history we have yet to uncover? As we continue our search for answers, one thing becomes clear. The line between fact and fiction is often blurrier than we might like to admit. The ancient civilizations of the world may have known things about the universe that we have long since forgotten, or perhaps they knew things that we are only just beginning to rediscover. And as we look to the stars today, we may be asking the same questions that they once asked. What lies beyond? Were they really alone in the universe, or did they once travel to places we have yet to reach? The search for these answers continues, leaving us with a lingering sense of wonder as we explore the possibility that the true history of humanity may still be hidden, waiting to be uncovered. As we move forward in our exploration of ancient civilizations, we find ourselves high in the Andes Mountains, surrounded by the mist and mystery of the Inca Empire. Towering peaks, lush valleys, and sprawling stone structures mark the landscape, but it's the Incas' mastery of engineering that continues to captivate historians, archaeologists, and explorers to this day. Their most remarkable and enduring achievements, though spread across the length and breadth of the Andean highlands, are perhaps best seen in their stunning terraces and complex building techniques. In the shadow of the imposing mountains of Peru, the sacred valley of the Incas reveals itself as a testament to human ingenuity. Vast, terraced agricultural systems stretch across the landscape like a finely woven tapestry, with perfectly placed stones holding back the earth. These terraces were more than just a feat of landscaping. They were vital to the survival of the Inca civilization. The Incas used the terraces to cultivate crops at varying altitudes, adapting to the rugged geography of the Andes, and creating an agricultural system that was highly efficient and sustainable. However, the technical precision with which these terraces were built raises a fundamental question. How did the Inca manage to accomplish this with such apparent ease and efficiency? The terraces themselves are impressive enough, but it's the advanced methods of construction that truly perplex modern engineers. The stonework that built the Inca structures is renowned for its accuracy. Each stone, meticulously carved and fitted, seems to have been designed to interlock perfectly without the use of mortar. The most famous example of this technique can be seen in Sacsayhuaman, a ceremonial complex above the city of Cusco. There, the walls are composed of massive stones, some weighing more than 100 tons, cut with such precision that even a blade of grass cannot slip between them. It's a style of masonry so exact that modern scholars and engineers still struggle to replicate it today. How could the Inca, with their relatively simple tools and technology, achieve such extraordinary precision in their stonework? Theories abound. Some believe that the stones were softened with heat or some other unknown method before being shaped and then placed with an uncanny level of accuracy. Others have posited that a form of sophisticated vibration or sound technology might have been used to make the stones easier to shape and move. While these ideas remain speculative, they tap into a deeper question. Was there some lost technique or knowledge that allowed the Inca to achieve what seems impossible by modern standards? The idea of unknown methods or lost technologies brings us to another remarkable feature of Inca construction, their remarkable terracing systems. Though these terraces are now often used to grow crops, their creation and engineering raise further questions about the Incas' understanding of the environment. The terracing was not just a practical solution to an agricultural challenge, it was an advanced system of environmental manipulation. The Incas created intricate irrigation systems, directing water from mountain streams and creating channels that ran through the terraces. Some terraces were even built with a slight curvature to maximize the distribution of water and prevent erosion. This sophisticated system allowed the Incas to thrive in one of the most rugged environments on Earth. But where did the knowledge come from? How did the Incas so perfectly adapt their building techniques to the unique challenges posed by their environment? As we delve into the mystery of Inca engineering, it's essential to consider the timeline of their civilization. The Inca Empire reached its zenith in the early 15th century, yet their building techniques appear remarkably advanced, as if they possessed a knowledge and skill set far beyond what should have been possible at the time. In fact, their methods of construction were so effective that many of the structures they left behind still stand strong today, despite the ravages of time, earthquakes, and invasions. This endurance, in and of itself, seems to suggest that the Inca had access to knowledge and skills that were lost to later generations. But as much as we marvel at the Incas' architectural feats, there is an undeniable tension between what we know and what remains unexplained. Scholars agree that the Inca used rudimentary tools, stone hammers, copper chisels, and simple levers to shape and position the massive stones that make up their structures. Yet, the precision with which these stones were cut and the scale on which they were moved leaves us wondering, was there something more at play? Was the Inca understanding of engineering truly as limited as we believe, or might we be missing something? Could the Incas have been inheritors of knowledge passed down from a much earlier, perhaps more advanced civilization? Or did they independently develop techniques that defy conventional understanding? Adding to this complexity are the many myths and legends that surround Inca culture. Some speak of advanced gods or ancestors who descended from the stars, bringing with them knowledge and skills that were far beyond human capability. Is this simply a cultural narrative, a way of explaining the seemingly impossible achievements of the Inca? Or could there be an element of truth to these stories? A hidden history of extraterrestrial influence, or contact with a lost civilization whose wisdom was passed on to the Inca? Another intriguing aspect of Inca architecture is their use of symbolism in their building designs. Many of the terraces, walls, and temples seem to align with celestial events and astronomical phenomena. The Intihuatana stone at Machu Picchu, for instance, is a stone structure thought to have been used as an astronomical clock. Its purpose remains somewhat ambiguous, but its positioning suggests that the Inca had an acute awareness of the movements of the sun and stars. Could this knowledge, along with their unparalleled skill in architecture, point to an even deeper understanding of the cosmos, an understanding that was far beyond what we once thought possible for a civilization so deeply rooted in the earth? As we reflect on the Incas' achievements, we're left with more questions than answers. The exact nature of their building techniques remains a puzzle, as does the question of how such a sophisticated civilization could have thrived without access to the kinds of tools and technologies we associate with modern engineering. Could it be that the Inca were not only great architects but also the inheritors of ancient, perhaps lost wisdom? Or did they possess knowledge that we are only now beginning to grasp? What secrets could still lie hidden in the mountains of Peru, waiting to be uncovered by those who dare to ask the most challenging questions? For now, the mystery of the Incas' advanced building techniques remains unsolved. The terracing, the precision stonework, and the intricate irrigation systems stand as silent monuments to a civilization whose achievements continue to defy our understanding. The question of how the Inca managed to achieve what they did, and what secrets might lie buried beneath the stone and soil, is one that still beckons to be answered. And perhaps, as we continue to search for clues, we will uncover a deeper connection between ancient knowledge and the technological marvels we often believe to be exclusively modern. As the sun dips below the horizon, casting long shadows over the Great Pyramid of Giza, one is struck by the sheer scale and precision of this ancient marvel. Standing in the desert, it is almost impossible to ignore the alignment of the pyramids to the stars above, an alignment so precise that it continues to intrigue astronomers, historians, and archaeologists alike. The ancient Egyptians, with their vast knowledge of geometry and engineering, built not only monumental structures, but also a complex cosmological framework that reflects their intimate relationship with the heavens. The pyramids of Giza, towering against the backdrop of the Egyptian desert, seem to reach directly into the cosmos. But as impressive as these structures are, it's the mystery of their alignment that continues to spark questions. How did the Egyptians, thousands of years ago, possess such detailed knowledge of the stars and planets? Was it merely the work of a highly skilled civilization, or could there have been something more profound at play? The Great Pyramid in particular is an enigma. It is believed to have been constructed around 2580 BCE, yet it aligns almost perfectly with the cardinal points, north, south, east, and west, something that would be difficult to achieve even with modern tools. The precision with which the Egyptians positioned the Great Pyramid's sides, aligning them almost exactly with the cardinal directions, suggests an advanced understanding of both geometry and astronomy. But how did they achieve this? In the 19th century, John Romer, a prominent Egyptologist, noted that the Egyptians likely used the stars as a guide in constructing these monumental structures. According to his theory, they may have used the star Thuban, part of the Draco constellation, to gauge the pyramid's orientation. Thuban, at the time of the pyramid's construction, was the pole star, and its position in the night sky would have been an essential reference point for the builders. Could this have been the key to their extraordinary accuracy? It is clear that the ancient Egyptians had a profound understanding of the night sky, not only for practical purposes such as navigation, but also for religious and ceremonial ones. The alignment of the pyramids and other structures with celestial bodies was not merely an aesthetic choice. It was deeply tied to their beliefs about the afterlife and the gods. The Egyptian god Osiris, for example, was associated with the stars, and the dead were often said to travel to the heavens to join him. In the burial chamber of the Great Pyramid, it is believed that the king's soul would ascend to the stars after death, joining the gods in eternal life. This alignment was therefore a cosmic bridge, linking the earthly realm to the divine. But while the connection between the stars and Egyptian religion is well documented, the actual methods the Egyptians used to achieve such precision remain a subject of much debate. Was it simply a matter of painstaking observation over generations, or did they have access to tools or knowledge that we are only beginning to understand? Some researchers have suggested that the Egyptians may have employed advanced instruments, perhaps even more sophisticated than we currently recognize. The gnomon, a simple sundial used by the Egyptians, might have played a role in their ability to track the movement of celestial bodies over time. Could there have been an astronomical device, perhaps a kind of star clock, that enabled them to mark the positions of the stars with such incredible accuracy? These questions remain largely speculative, yet they hint at the possibility of lost or unknown technologies that could explain the Egyptians' remarkable achievements in aligning their structures with the stars. Then, of course, there's the question of how this knowledge was passed down. Ancient Egyptian priests were known to be highly educated in the fields of mathematics, engineering, and astronomy. They kept detailed records of the movements of the stars and planets, some of which have survived in the form of star clocks and celestial maps etched into the walls of temples. But the extent to which this knowledge was widely understood, or even how it was acquired, remains unclear. Did the Egyptians develop this knowledge on their own, or were they inheritors of a much older tradition, perhaps from a lost civilization that had already charted the heavens in ways that remain lost to time? Further complicating the mystery is the presence of advanced astronomical knowledge in other ancient cultures. The Maya, for instance, developed a highly accurate calendar system based on their observation of the stars, particularly the movements of Venus. Could there have been a shared understanding of the cosmos among ancient civilizations that we have yet to uncover? Some fringe theories suggest that the Egyptians may have had contact with other ancient civilizations, whether in the Americas or beyond, whose astronomical knowledge was equally advanced. While these ideas are often dismissed by mainstream scholars, they do raise intriguing questions about the transmission of knowledge across time and space. Perhaps one of the most compelling aspects of the Egyptian astronomical legacy is the sophistication of their star clocks. These instruments, which were etched into the walls of tombs and temples, served as a means to track the movements of the stars. Some of these clocks, particularly those found in the tomb of Amenemhat II, display a level of precision that seems out of place for a civilization using tools that, by our standards, were relatively simple. Could the Egyptians have used these clocks to mark the passage of time not just on Earth, but across the vast reaches of the universe? As we look back at the Egyptians' connection to the stars, it's hard not to feel a sense of awe at their scientific sophistication. The alignment of their temples, pyramids, and burial chambers suggests an advanced knowledge of the cosmos, one that is not easily explained by the tools they are believed to have had. Their reverence for the stars, their belief in the afterlife as a journey to the heavens, and the practical applications of their celestial knowledge point to a civilization that saw the universe as a deeply interconnected whole. And yet, for all we have uncovered, the full extent of the Egyptians' astronomical knowledge remains elusive. Could they have known more than we can comprehend? Their secrets hidden behind the towering pyramids and the star-studded skies? Or, perhaps, there is still a key to this ancient wisdom waiting to be discovered, buried in the sands of time. As we continue to unravel the mysteries of ancient Egypt, we are reminded that some questions remain as timeless as the stars themselves. Questions that may never be fully answered but will continue to captivate the human imagination for centuries to come. The wind moves softly through the crumbled stones of what was once the bustling heart of the ancient world. The sun, high over the pale blue waters of the Aegean, casts long shadows across fractured columns and broken archways. Here, among the scattered remains of temples and theaters, the echoes of an extraordinary past seem to whisper through the ruins. As we leave behind the enigma of lost civilizations, those ancient peoples who may have rebuilt the world in ways we are only beginning to imagine, we turn now to a land whose legacy has long been held as the bedrock of Western thought, Greece. But beneath the familiar tales of philosophers and city-states lies a subtler story, one less often told. A story of astonishing engineering, of systems so intricate that even today they inspire awe and confusion. Was the technological prowess of ancient Greece simply the product of gradual human advancement? Or does it hint at something deeper? Perhaps a fragment of knowledge carried forward from an even earlier time. At the center of this mystery stands a single object, the Antikythera mechanism. Recovered in 1901 from the wreckage of a Roman ship near the Greek island of Antikythera, the corroded bronze fragment seemed at first little more than a curiosity. Yet, as scholars painstakingly studied the artifact, using X-rays and 3D imaging technologies, they began to uncover its secret, an intricate assembly of gears and cogs capable of modeling the complex movements of the sun, the moon, and even predicting eclipses decades in advance. Historians, engineers, and astronomers alike have marveled at its precision. Dating back to the 2nd century BCE, the mechanism defies all previous assumptions about ancient capabilities. How, in an age without lathes, without modern metal tools, could such a sophisticated device be created? Was it the isolated achievement of a single genius, perhaps inspired by the polymath Archimedes or one of his lost contemporaries? Or could it be evidence of a much older lineage of technological knowledge that had survived, hidden and fragmented, through the great forgetting that followed earlier cataclysms? The Antikythera mechanism is not alone in raising such questions. Across Greece, remnants of advanced engineering quietly await recognition. The massive stone blocks of Mycenae's Lion Gate, cut and fitted with a precision that suggests techniques far exceeding what we usually associate with the late Bronze Age, invite speculation. The subterranean drainage systems of ancient Athens, engineered to manage floods and waste long before the advent of modern sanitation, show a foresight rarely credited to early societies. The Temple of Apollo at Delphi, standing upon the sacred Omphalos, the navel of the world, was constructed over a site marked by complex geological phenomena. Vapors from fissures in the earth were channeled in ways that influenced the mystical experiences of the Pythia, the Oracle of Delphi. Was this simply a coincidence of placement, or does it hint at an ancient understanding of geophysics, long before such sciences were formally conceived? Consider also the incredible acoustics of the theater at Epidaurus. Built in the 4th century BCE, this grand structure allows even a whisper at its center to be heard clearly from the highest seats, 60 rows above. Modern researchers have suggested that the limestone seats act as a natural acoustic filter, damping low-frequency background noise and amplifying human speech. But the degree of precision, the exact curvature and alignment, could such effects really have been discovered entirely through trial and error? Were these achievements purely the fruits of careful observation and incremental progress? Or were the ancient Greeks heirs to an engineering tradition whose origins stretch far beyond their own recorded history? Intriguingly, scattered myths and legends hint at deeper roots. In the oldest stories of Greece, there are echoes of forgotten ages. The tales of Daedalus, the master craftsman who built automatons that moved on their own; of Hephaestus, forging mechanical servants from bronze; of the Cyclopes, builders of massive stone fortresses beyond human strength. Could these myths, wrapped in metaphor and allegory, be memories of real technologies once known and then lost? Some researchers propose that what we attribute to Greek ingenuity may, in part, represent the last flowering of a legacy inherited from much earlier civilizations, perhaps even from those that perished during the mysterious collapse of the Bronze Age, around 1200 BCE, when great cultures fell into ruin across the Mediterranean and Near East. Mainstream historians caution against drawing too many conclusions. They remind us that human creativity has always found extraordinary expressions, even in difficult circumstances. That experimentation, keen observation, and communal knowledge, accumulated over generations, can yield marvels that seem, in retrospect, impossibly ahead of their time. And yet, the questions persist. Why do so few devices like the Antikythera mechanism survive, if such technologies were widespread? How could such an advanced object appear, seemingly in isolation, without a clear lineage of simpler prototypes? Could the knowledge to create such systems have been preserved in hidden enclaves, lost libraries, or oral traditions, too fragile to survive the ravages of time? Or perhaps more provocatively, could the ancient Greeks themselves have rediscovered principles that had been known long before, buried deep in the collective memory of humanity? As we walk the broken flagstones of forgotten cities and run our hands along the weathered marble, we are left with more questions than answers. The genius of ancient Greece shines brightly, but behind its glow flicker the shadows of an even older mystery, one that invites us to look not just into the past, but into the deep unknown. If such knowledge could arise once and be lost, what else might still lie hidden, waiting for us to rediscover? As we trace the echoes of lost knowledge through the ruins of Greece, our journey carries us eastward, across mountains, deserts, and seas, to another ancient land rich in enigma and legend, China. Here, beyond the mists that roll over forested hills and winding rivers, rises a landscape shaped by human hands over millennia, a place where monumental walls stretch over mountains like the spine of some sleeping dragon, and where forgotten palaces lie buried beneath layers of earth and secrecy. At the heart of this mystery stands the Great Wall, an icon recognized the world over. Its battered stones and silent watchtowers snake across thousands of miles, a testament to vision, perseverance, and engineering skill. But what if, hidden within these stones and buried in the annals of Chinese architecture, lie secrets that even now we are only beginning to grasp? The earliest sections of the Great Wall date back more than 2,000 years, constructed during the Warring States period, centuries before the unification under Qin Shi Huang. Built of tamped earth, wood, brick, and stone, it is often described in textbooks as the work of hundreds of thousands of laborers, working in brutal conditions, driven by the will of emperors who sought to defend their realms from northern invaders. And yet, when one stands in the shadow of these ancient walls, questions naturally arise. How did early engineers manage to construct such an enormous project across some of the most challenging terrains on Earth, without the benefit of modern surveying tools, without cranes, without heavy machinery? How were remote sections synchronized across vast distances, ensuring that the wall aligned and maintained its defensive integrity? Conventional wisdom credits sheer manpower, simple tools, and a rigid command structure. But as we examine more closely, peculiar details emerge. Recent studies of the wall's mortar have revealed something astonishing. Many sections, particularly those dating from the Ming Dynasty, are bound not merely with sand and lime, but with a secret ingredient: sticky rice. A complex organic-inorganic mixture, the rice-based mortar is so durable that it has outlasted many modern concrete structures. Its molecular structure, remarkably resilient against earthquakes and erosion, remains an enigma to modern chemists. How, in the 15th century, did Chinese engineers discover a composite material that remains one of the strongest binding agents in history? Was it the result of centuries of careful experimentation? Or could it represent the lingering traces of even older, now forgotten knowledge? The Great Wall is but one example. In the ancient city of Luoyang, the ruins of the Sui and Tang dynasty capitals reveal elaborate urban planning that rivals any known in antiquity. Vast grids, precisely oriented along geomantic principles, integrated with sophisticated water management systems. Even more mysterious are the colossal wooden structures that once dominated Chinese skylines. Traditional Chinese architecture, from sprawling palaces to towering pagodas, relied not on nails or adhesives, but on a complex system of interlocking wooden joints, dugong. These intricate brackets, fitted together with mathematical precision, allowed buildings to flex and sway with earthquakes rather than collapse. Some wooden pagodas, such as the Fogong Temple Pagoda, have stood for nearly 1,000 years, surviving tremors that toppled newer, supposedly stronger constructions. Again, the question arises: how was such expertise attained? Was it purely the fruit of generational refinement? Or is it possible that Chinese architects, like their counterparts in Egypt, Mesopotamia, or Mesoamerica, were inheritors of a deeper tradition, a body of knowledge passed down from an earlier, perhaps even forgotten, epoch? Legends and ancient texts whisper of lost dynasties before the known dynasties. The Xia, the mythical 3 sovereigns and 5 emperors, who supposedly ruled in a distant golden age. The classic of mountains and seas, a compilation of myth, geography, and folklore, speaks of fantastical cities, towering structures, and mechanical wonders. Accounts often dismissed by scholars as allegory, but which, viewed through another lens, invite contemplation. Could these ancient tales preserve echoes of an even earlier chapter of human civilization, now lost beneath the rivers and plains of China? Further deepening the mystery are the pyramids of Xi'an. Less known than their Egyptian counterparts, dozens of massive earthen pyramids, some as tall as 300 feet, dot the landscape near the ancient capital. Officially attributed to emperors of the Han and earlier dynasties, these structures are shrouded in secrecy. Many remain unexcavated, hidden under heavy vegetation, and shielded by government policy that prohibits intrusive archaeological studies. What lies within these ancient mounds? Some local legends speak of chambers filled with rivers of mercury and ceilings that mimic the night sky with pearls and gemstones. The tomb of Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor of a unified China, is famously said to contain such marvels, yet it remains sealed, untouched, for fear of damaging what lies within, or perhaps for reasons more enigmatic. If true, such engineering feats would imply a mastery of materials, of hydraulic engineering, and even of astronomical knowledge, long before such capabilities were thought possible. Was ancient China a cradle of rediscovery, where the fragmented remnants of an earlier technological age found fertile ground to bloom again? Or do these achievements represent the culmination of human ingenuity, driven by necessity, creativity, and centuries of perseverance? The answers, perhaps, lie buried, deep beneath the soil, behind crumbling walls, encoded in the structures themselves. But for now, they remain tantalizingly out of reach, inviting us to wonder. If such marvels were crafted by hands and minds so long ago, what more might still lie hidden, waiting for us to uncover, to understand, and to remember? From the misty mountains of ancient China, where the secrets of long-forgotten architects still slumber beneath layers of earth and time, our journey takes us across oceans, to a land wrapped in dense jungle and vibrant mystery. Here, in the steaming heart of Central America, the remnants of the Maya civilization lie scattered beneath towering ceiba trees and thick curtains of vines. Massive stone pyramids rise from the forest floor like sleeping giants, their carved faces weathered but not forgotten. It is a place where the line between history and legend often blurs, a place where perhaps more secrets wait just beyond the veil of the known. Among the many wonders attributed to the ancient Maya, mathematics, astronomy, urban planning, one aspect remains quietly astounding, and yet surprisingly little explored: their medicine. Was Maya knowledge of the human body, disease, and healing far more advanced than we have ever realized? Wandering through the ruins of places like Copan, Tikal, and Palenque, it is difficult to imagine the bustling cities that once stood here, centers of commerce, art, and science, filled with scholars, priests, healers. stone stelae and wall carvings depict not only rulers and warriors but also ritual scenes that hint at complex medical practices. Archaeological digs have uncovered surgical tools made of obsidian, a volcanic glass so sharp that it can rival modern scalpels in precision even today. Examinations of ancient Maya skulls reveal evidence of trepanation, surgical openings cut into the cranium. Remarkably, many of these skulls show signs of healing, indicating that patients survived these invasive procedures. Trepanation was not unique to the Maya. It appeared in cultures around the world. But the level of survival and the apparent understanding of how to do it safely suggest a medical sophistication that demands deeper scrutiny. Was this merely an isolated practice for ritual or spiritual reasons, as many mainstream historians assert? Or did the Maya possess a more comprehensive knowledge of anatomy and surgery, long before similar techniques became widespread elsewhere? The intrigue deepens when we look at Maya pharmacology. The rainforest was not simply a backdrop for Maya life. It was their pharmacy, their laboratory. They identified and used hundreds of plants for their medicinal properties. Archaeological residues and ethno-historical records suggest the Maya utilized substances with antibacterial, antifungal, and even anesthetic qualities. Plants like copal resin served as antiseptics. Tobacco was used in wound care, and extracts from ceiba and chaya were believed to treat a range of internal ailments. More curiously, some evidence points to the use of psychoactive compounds not only for spiritual journeys, but possibly as anesthetics during medical procedures. Accounts from Spanish chroniclers hint at the Maya's ability to induce states of unconsciousness, knowledge that, if true, would place them far ahead of many contemporaneous societies in terms of surgical medicine. How did they gain such intricate knowledge of plant chemistry without modern instruments? Trial and error alone seems a perilous path when dealing with potent, sometimes lethal, botanicals. Could this deep botanical wisdom have been accumulated over uncounted generations? Or might it reflect the inheritance of an even older, now forgotten body of knowledge? Then there are the teeth. Maya remains show evidence of sophisticated dental work. Carved inlays of jade, turquoise, and hematite embedded into teeth, not merely for ornamentation but often done with a precision that suggests a remarkable understanding of both aesthetics and dental health. The Maya also filed their teeth into intricate shapes, points, symbols, and studies reveal that many of these modifications were performed without significant infection. In an age where even minor dental procedures could lead to fatal sepsis, how did they manage such feats? Some researchers propose that the Maya had access to antiseptic agents or antimicrobial pastes made from jungle plants. Others wonder whether they employed unknown techniques, methods perhaps lost during the violent upheavals that ended their great cities. Mainstream scholarship tends to frame these discoveries within the context of cultural rituals and empirical observation. Yet the consistency, the survival rates, the complexity of Maya medical interventions whisper of something more. Of a medical system perhaps far more systematic, deliberate, and codified than we are willing to acknowledge. Legends from the Popol Vuh, the sacred Maya text, speak of knowledge brought by semi-divine beings, of wisdom gifted to humanity in the remote past. Were these simply metaphors for the flowering of early human genius, or faint echoes of a forgotten chapter of human advancement? When Spanish conquistadors arrived in the 16th century, they found a civilization already in decline, battered by internal strife and environmental collapse. Yet, what they glimpsed hinted at a profound sophistication. Cities mapped with cosmic precision, calendars more accurate than any in Europe, and healers whose treatments were rooted in a knowledge deeper than mere superstition. If so much was accomplished with what remained, how much more might have been known at the height of Maya civilization, during the time when the Great Pyramids were young, and the jungle had not yet reclaimed its dominion. Today, researchers and adventurers alike continue to uncover new clues. Temples hidden beneath the trees, underground caves adorned with ceremonial offerings, remnants of an intricate civilization that seems, in many ways, to defy easy explanation. Could it be that the Maya, like other ancient peoples, preserved fragments of an earlier, greater knowledge, wisdom passed down through whispered traditions and secret rites, knowledge not merely of stars and seasons, but of the inner workings of the human body, of life and death, pain and healing? The jungles remain silent on these questions, their secrets buried beneath centuries of growth and decay. And so we are left to wonder, if the Maya mastered arts of healing now lost to us, what other forgotten sciences might still sleep in the shadows, waiting to be remembered? The jungles of the Maya, rich with forgotten wisdom, and the quiet whisper of lost sciences, gradually fade from view. As we move forward in our journey through humanity's forgotten past, we find ourselves crossing continents and centuries, arriving at the heart of an empire whose echoes still shape the modern world. Beneath the golden light of a fading afternoon, the ruins of ancient Rome stand resolute against the passage of time. Crumbling columns stretch toward the sky, as if still trying to uphold the weight of a vanished age. Arches loom silent and unmoving, roads vanish toward distant horizons, and aqueducts cut sharp, clean lines across once verdant valleys. It is here, in these enduring relics of stone and mortar, that one encounters a civilization whose mastery of engineering seems, even now, to defy simple explanation. The Roman Empire is often remembered for its conquests, its legions, its Caesars. Yet perhaps its greatest legacy was not in the battles it fought, but in the world it built, brick by brick, aqueduct by aqueduct, road by road. A network so vast, so meticulously organized, that it seems almost unfathomable. The Roman roads, for instance, were marvels of precision, built layer upon layer with stone, sand, lime, and gravel. They could endure centuries of wear. Some Roman roads are still used today, their surfaces bearing the footprints not only of emperors and soldiers, but of countless generations who came after. Surveying techniques allowed Roman engineers to plot straight routes across vast distances, overcoming mountains, rivers, and valleys with an eerie accuracy. Without satellite mapping or modern measurement tools, how did they maintain such precise alignments? Was it simply a matter of genius craftsmanship, a perfect blend of experience and discipline? Or might there have been knowledge, perhaps even techniques, now lost to history? Then there are the aqueducts, soaring marvels that carried fresh water to cities miles away from natural sources. The Aqua Claudia, the Pont du Gard, and dozens more stand as silent witnesses to a sophisticated understanding of hydraulics, gravity, and material science. Some aqueducts maintained a barely perceptible gradient over miles of terrain, falling only a few inches every 100 feet. Modern engineers have marveled at this achievement. Without laser levels or computerized modeling, how could such delicate calculations have been achieved so consistently across such massive projects? Tradition tells us that Roman engineers used basic tools, simple plumb bobs, water levels, and rods, to measure and survey. But some fringe researchers have speculated about the existence of more advanced instruments now lost to time. Ancient references to mysterious dioptras, early theodolite-like devices, raise tantalizing questions. Could the Romans have inherited or rediscovered older, more precise surveying methods, remnants perhaps of even earlier civilizations? And it is not just the scale of their construction that inspires awe, it is the endurance. Roman concrete, opus caementicium, remains one of the most durable building materials ever created. Structures like the Pantheon, with its vast unreinforced concrete dome, and the towering piers of coastal harbors, still defy the elements nearly 2 millennia later. Modern scientists have only recently begun to unlock the secret of Roman concrete's extraordinary longevity. A careful blend of volcanic ash, lime, and seawater that allowed the material not only to set underwater, but to grow stronger over time through the formation of crystalline structures. How did Roman builders discover this formula? Was it, as many believe, a lucky accident born of experimentation? Or could it reflect an inherited knowledge, a fragment of understanding passed down from a forgotten source, a civilization older than even Rome itself? Legends from Roman writers hint at older worlds. Stories of ancient peoples, of cities swallowed by time and disaster, occasionally surface in their histories. To the Romans, their origins lay in the mythic tales of Troy, in the wanderings of Aeneas, guided by forces beyond mortal understanding. Could it be that embedded within their culture was a dim memory of an even older technological heritage? Consider the Cloaca Maxima, one of the world's earliest sewage systems, built to drain the marshes and manage waste for the growing city of Rome. So advanced was its design that parts of it remain in use today. The system was attributed not to the ingenuity of Rome's first kings alone, but to mysterious Etruscan influences, an earlier people whose knowledge of engineering and ritual still baffles scholars. The Etruscans themselves leave us with more questions than answers. Their origins remain obscure, their language only partially understood. Were they, perhaps, heirs to an even more ancient legacy, one carried quietly through the ages until it found full expression under Roman rule? Mainstream archaeology points to the Romans as tireless innovators and practical adapters, building upon what they absorbed from the Greeks, the Etruscans, and other neighbors. Yet the sheer precision, resilience, and scope of Roman engineering occasionally suggests something more, a mastery that feels almost out of time. If so much has survived the ravages of centuries, earthquakes, wars, neglect, what might have been lost entirely? What designs, what machines, what blueprints might have crumbled to dust, erased by the relentless march of history? Today, we marvel at Roman ruins, and we study their techniques with admiration. But perhaps we are still only scratching the surface of what they truly knew. What if the Roman engineers were not merely builders of empire, but also keepers of ancient knowledge, stewards of a wisdom that stretches back into a forgotten age, one whose true story remains just beyond our grasp? The enduring stones of Rome remind us of humanity's ability to shape the world through sheer will and ingenuity. Yet, as we peer deeper into the misty corridors of time, we encounter a civilization even more ancient, one whose origins are wrapped not just in the mists of history, but in profound and lingering mystery. Across the sun-scorched plains of Mesopotamia, where the Tigris and Euphrates rivers carve life into an otherwise barren land, lie the crumbling remains of a civilization that many believe was the first of its kind. Low ziggurats rise like ghostly stairways from the cracked earth. Fragments of baked clay tablets, etched with intricate cuneiform script, whisper tales from a world almost unimaginably old. This was Sumer, the cradle of civilization. In what is now modern-day Iraq, some 6,000 years ago, the Sumerians emerged, seemingly fully formed. Their cities, Uruk, Ur, Eridu, Lagash, were not scattered villages, but complex urban centers boasting sophisticated governance, monumental architecture, intricate trade networks, and the earliest known writing system. How, in an age when most of humanity still lived in simple tribal societies, did such a civilization arise with such sudden sophistication? Mainstream historians propose a gradual progression, a slow accumulation of agricultural surplus and technological innovation that led to the first cities. And yet, the scale and suddenness of Sumer's achievements continued to provoke questions. The Sumerians invented the wheel, formalized laws, created expansive irrigation systems, and mapped the heavens with a precision that would not be matched for millennia. They divided time into units of 60, a system we still use today for minutes and seconds. Their myths, rich with symbolism and complexity, laid the groundwork for countless future cultures. But where did this knowledge come from? Standing before the ruins of Uruk's once mighty walls, it's difficult not to feel the weight of an enigma. According to Sumerian king lists, documents etched onto ancient stone, kingship itself was said to have been lowered from heaven. These texts recount reigns lasting thousands of years before a great flood wiped the slate clean. Myths such as those found in the Epic of Gilgamesh echo stories of immortality quests, celestial beings, and forgotten epochs of godlike rulers. Are these merely allegories, symbolic tales crafted to explain the mysteries of life and death? Or could they preserve fragments of a prehistorical truth, a memory of events far more ancient than we dare to imagine? The Sumerians themselves credited their knowledge to the Anunnaki, beings described as descending from the heavens to bestow wisdom, kingship, and civilization. Interpretations of these myths vary widely. Traditional scholarship views the Anunnaki as deified ancestors or metaphors for natural forces. Yet, alternative thinkers have suggested more provocative theories, proposals of extraterrestrial intervention or the survival of knowledge from a lost, advanced pre-flood culture. We do not need to endorse such ideas to acknowledge a simple truth. The Sumerians knew things that seem extraordinary for their time. Consider their astronomical knowledge. They cataloged stars, charted planetary movements, and recognized the precession of the equinoxes, an astronomical phenomenon requiring observations spanning thousands of years to detect accurately. How could a fledgling civilization, barely out of the Neolithic era, possess such long-term data? And their mathematics. Unlike the base 10 system most of the world now uses, the Sumerians employed a base 60 system, enabling complex calculations, including the ability to measure angles and predict astronomical events with remarkable accuracy. Where did the inspiration for this complex, abstract thinking originate? Their city planning also speaks volumes. Streets laid out in grids, advanced sewage and drainage systems, and monumental ziggurats constructed with uncanny precision, all achieved without the aid of metal tools or beasts of burden as we understand them. What techniques, what accumulated body of knowledge made this possible? Some have speculated that Sumerian development hints at a forgotten precursor, a culture washed away by catastrophe, perhaps remembered dimly in mythologies across the world as a great flood, or a time before the kings descended. Mainstream archaeology sees the Sumerians as pioneers, the first among humanity to reach a critical mass of knowledge and innovation. But is it possible they were the inheritors of something older? A torch passed through the dark corridors of deep time from hands we no longer remember. Artifacts continue to emerge, mysterious cylinder seals depicting complex scenes, mythic creatures, and technological devices far beyond what we would expect for that era. Inscriptions speak of black-headed people brought to serve the gods, of hidden knowledge, of battles in the heavens. Are these mere poetic flourishes, or signposts pointing to forgotten realities? As the shifting sands of Mesopotamia reveal new ruins year by year, we are reminded that much of Sumer's story remains buried, perhaps forever. Wars, environmental decay, and the simple passage of ages have all conspired to obscure the full picture. Today, as we piece together their legacy from fragmented tablets and crumbling walls, we are left with tantalizing questions. How did Sumer ascend so quickly to such dizzying heights? Was it truly a solitary spark of human brilliance, or the rekindling of an older smoldering fire, one whose origins stretch further back than we can now see? The ruins of Sumer stand silent, but if they could speak, what stories might they tell? As the last golden embers of Sumerian brilliance fade into the sands of Mesopotamia, our journey carries us westward, across azure waters, toward islands cradled by the gentle arms of the Aegean Sea. Here, amid craggy cliffs and fields of wild thyme, we encounter another ancient mystery, the lost world of the Minoans. The island of Crete, shimmering beneath a cloudless Mediterranean sky, seems almost untouched by time. Olive groves sway in the breeze, their silver-green leaves whispering secrets to the warm air. And rising above the rolling landscape, the ruins of Knossos, the grand palace complex of the Minoan civilization, command attention with their haunting beauty. At first glance, Knossos is a marvel of color and design. Bright frescoes depict dolphins leaping across waves, priestesses adorned in flowing garments, and scenes of vibrant ceremony. Corridors weave and twist through dozens of interconnected chambers. Staircases ascend and descend unpredictably, and vast courtyards open suddenly beneath the sun. But beyond the artistry and architectural splendor lies something even more remarkable, a series of technological achievements that hint at an understanding of the environment far ahead of its time. The Palace of Knossos, built around 1900 BCE, was not merely a royal residence. It functioned as a complex, self-sustaining organism. Ingeniously designed to harness natural forces, it featured an advanced drainage system, extensive plumbing, and even forms of climate control. At Knossos and other Minoan sites, archaeologists have uncovered clay pipes buried beneath the floors, pipes that carried fresh water to fountains and baths, and wastewater away from the complex. These systems suggest not just technical skill, but a sophisticated appreciation for hygiene, health, and urban comfort. How did a Bronze Age society, without iron tools, without what we would call modern science, create infrastructure that rivals in ingenuity the public works of Rome, built over 1,000 years later? Mainstream scholars attribute this mastery to the Minoans' close observation of nature and a culture of pragmatic innovation. The abundance of volcanic stone on Crete provided the perfect material for durable piping. The moderate climate and seasonal rains encouraged early experiments with water storage and distribution. Yet, as with many ancient wonders, questions remain. The complexity and scale of the plumbing system suggest a centralized planning and engineering capability rare even among contemporary civilizations. Some buildings were fitted with dual drainage systems, one for rainwater, one for sewage, a separation of waste and clean water that wouldn't become common practice in Europe until millennia later. Furthermore, evidence indicates the Minoans employed a form of passive air conditioning. Architectural features such as light wells, open courtyards, and strategically placed doorways allowed for air circulation and temperature regulation. In the intense Mediterranean heat, these innovations would have created cool, livable spaces within thick-walled structures. Could this level of environmental engineering have arisen solely through incremental trial and error? Or might it suggest a deeper, perhaps forgotten lineage of technological thought? Adding to the intrigue are Minoan myths and traditions, many of which speak to a profound connection with nature and the elements. Their religious iconography is replete with images of serpents, doves, and marine life, symbols of earth, sky, and sea. some scholars have proposed that the Minoans possessed an early form of ecological philosophy, a reverence for the environment that informed not just their religion, but their very way of life. Alternative theories even suggest that the Minoans may have inherited fragments of knowledge from a lost civilization, possibly Atlantis, as first described by Plato. Though mainstream historians view Atlantis as allegory, the parallels are tempting. A prosperous island culture, technologically advanced, destroyed by a catastrophic event. Indeed, around 1450 BCE, the flourishing Minoan civilization came to an abrupt end. Many believe that the eruption of the nearby volcano at Thera, modern-day Santorini, unleashed a cataclysmic tsunami, devastating Crete and fatally weakening its society. Could it be that the environmental sophistication of the Minoans was a legacy of survivors, those who had previously endured environmental collapse? Were their technologies a conscious effort to live in harmony with forces they knew could one day unleash unimaginable destruction? Despite decades of excavation and study, much of the Minoan world remains tantalizingly obscure. Their script, Linear A, remains undeciphered. Their mythology survives only in fragmentary echoes through later Greek traditions. Their buildings, though beautiful and carefully crafted, hold within them mysteries we have yet to fully understand. Standing among the sun-bleached stones of Knossos, feeling the warm wind slip through the hollow corridors, it is easy to imagine that something vital lies just out of reach. Some knowledge, some memory, that once was clear but has since been eroded by time. Did the Minoans truly pioneer environmental technologies from scratch? Or were they the inheritors of a much older, much deeper wisdom, one born from a civilization even further lost to history? As the waves continue to lap against the shores of Crete, silent and tireless, the ruins of the Minoans seem to beckon still, inviting us to listen more closely, to wonder more deeply, and to ask ourselves, what have we truly forgotten? The whispers of the Minoans, echoing from sun-drenched palaces and lost islands, lead us naturally to a broader, equally tantalizing question. How did the ancient world move? How did early civilizations, separated by oceans, mountains, and deserts, build networks of trade, culture, and influence that, even now, seem astonishing in their reach? Beneath the dense canopy of the Amazon rainforest, on remote Pacific islands, and across the sweeping deserts of Africa and Asia, traces remain. Traces of journeys made long before the invention of the steam engine, before the discovery of the compass, long before history, as we know it, officially began. A dusty track carves its way through the Maltese countryside, worn deep into limestone bedrock. Known as the cart ruts of Malta, these mysterious parallel grooves stretch across fields and cliff edges, some vanishing abruptly into the sea. Some ruts are nearly a meter deep. They crisscross the landscape with a deliberate, if now indecipherable, purpose. Traditional archaeology suggests that these tracks were created by sleds or carts laden with heavy loads. Erosion and repeated use, over centuries, deepened the marks into the stone. But questions persist. Some ruts lead nowhere, veering into abrupt cliff faces. Others are so deep and irregular that conventional explanations seem strained. What kind of vehicles could have left such enduring impressions, and when? In places as far apart as Malta, Turkey, and even parts of South America, similar features can be found, ancient pathways whose precise functions remain elusive. Could they point to a now lost system of overland transport more advanced than we have yet understood? And transport was not confined to the land. Across the expanse of the Pacific Ocean, the ancient Polynesians navigated vast distances between islands, using methods that remain partly mysterious. They sailed thousands of miles without the aid of sextants, compasses, or modern instruments. They read the stars, the flight of birds, the color of the water, and the patterns of ocean swells. This wayfinding, as it is now called, speaks to a deep, almost intuitive mastery of the environment, a technology of the senses rather than machines. Yet there are more enigmatic clues. Legends from around the world tell of flying chariots, boats that moved without oars, and vehicles that could travel not just over land or water, but through the air itself. In ancient India, the Vimanas, described in texts like the Mahabharata, are said to have soared across the skies, powered by mysterious energies. In the Americas, petroglyphs carved into stone depict strange, disc-like objects hovering above human figures. Are these simply metaphors? Imaginative myths meant to inspire awe? Or could they hint at a deeper, now forgotten understanding of movement and propulsion? Even within the realm of established archaeology, there are puzzles. How, for instance, were the multi-ton stones of Baalbek in Lebanon transported and precisely placed? The largest known quarried stone, estimated at over 1,000 tons, lies partially detached, its transport and intended use still unsolved. Traditional theories involve sledges, ropes, and vast armies of workers, but calculations show that moving such colossal weights with primitive tools would verge on the impossible. Or consider the Piri Reis map, compiled in 1513 by an Ottoman admiral. It depicts parts of South America and Antarctica with astonishing accuracy, features only visible after the melting of Ice Age glaciers. The mapmaker himself claimed to have based his work on far older source materials, now lost. Could ancient mariners have possessed navigation skills and perhaps technologies far superior to what we currently acknowledge? There are theories, of course, some more grounded, some more speculative. One possibility is that ancient peoples mastered techniques now lost, methods of leveraging sound, water, magnetism, or other natural forces to move massive objects or navigate great distances with ease. Alternative theorists have even proposed the idea of anti-gravity technologies, advanced propulsion systems, or an inherited knowledge from a pre-cataclysmic global civilization. Mainstream science remains cautious, favoring explanations grounded in immense human effort, ingenuity, and persistence. And indeed, human resilience should never be underestimated. Yet the gaps in our understanding remain tantalizing. The outliers, the unexplained artifacts, the anomalous tracks, the persistent myths of flight and effortless movement, whisper of possibilities we are only beginning to glimpse. Standing amid the cart ruts of Malta, one cannot help but wonder, were these the remnants of ordinary trade routes worn by simple carts? Or are they the silent testimony of a technology or a knowledge that once reshaped the very landscape? The seas, the deserts, the skies themselves, perhaps they were not the insurmountable barriers we imagine them to have been. Perhaps, long before our histories began, they were highways for travelers whose stories have been all but erased by time. As we peer into the forgotten corners of our planet, piecing together fragments of the past, a quiet question lingers. Did the ancients find ways to travel and to connect that we have yet to rediscover? The mysterious echoes of ancient transport, silent tracks in stone, the lost art of wayfinding, and tales of forgotten vessels lead us inevitably to an even deeper question. How connected was the ancient world truly? Were these scattered achievements isolated marvels, or fragments of a larger, hidden network that spanned continents and oceans long before our official histories begin? Along the rugged coastline of Peru, beneath the intense gaze of the desert sun, lies a site that has long puzzled archaeologists and explorers alike. The Nazca Lines, immense geoglyphs etched into the earth, stretch across the barren plains, visible in their full glory only from high above. Stylized hummingbirds, monkeys, spiders, and abstract patterns unfurl across the landscape like messages intended for distant eyes. Nearby, traces of ancient ports and roadways hint at an active, far-reaching culture, one that may have extended its influence far beyond what we once thought possible. Mainstream scholarship holds that the Nazca people created these works between 500 BCE and 500 CE, and that their purposes were religious, astronomical, or ritualistic. Yet the question lingers: who were they reaching out to? Why build messages for the sky? And this is but one piece of a much larger mosaic. Across the Atlantic, ancient maps depict the Americas with surprising detail centuries before Columbus set sail. The similarities between pyramid structures in Egypt and Mesoamerica have been noted for decades. Not merely their shapes, but their astronomical alignments, their purposes as ceremonial centers, and their role as cosmic markers connecting Earth to sky. Coincidence, parallel development, or the echoes of a once shared knowledge? Some artifacts strain the conventional narrative even further. In 1999, off the coast of India near the city of Dwarka, marine archaeologists discovered submerged structures that appeared to be man-made. The stone walls, streets, and platforms now lie beneath the waves, covered in sediment. If proven to be of human origin, they could date back over 9,000 years, suggesting advanced settlements existed when, according to traditional timelines, humanity was still composed of scattered primitive tribes. Meanwhile, in Egypt, the famed Dendera light bas-relief shows what some interpret as a giant, bulb-like object held by human figures. Mainstream Egyptologists describe it as a representation of creation myths. But alternative interpretations hint at lost technologies, and perhaps lost contacts. How could societies separated by thousands of miles, without the benefit of steamships, airplanes, or satellites, have shared symbols, architectural styles, and even myths so strikingly similar? One mainstream explanation is the concept of cultural diffusion. Ideas like seeds can travel along trade routes carried by merchants, migrants, and adventurers. Over time, these seeds grow into new forms, adapted to different soils, climates, and cultures. The Silk Road, stretching from China to the Mediterranean, is a well-documented example of this phenomenon. Goods, religions, and technologies flowing back and forth across the continents. But could there have been even earlier routes? Silent pathways across the oceans? Invisible highways of connection now forgotten? Ancient South American legends speak of Viracocha, a bearded deity who arrived from across the sea. Some versions of Mesoamerican lore describe Quetzalcoatl, a fair-skinned, bearded figure associated with knowledge and civilization. These accounts have fueled speculative theories, suggesting that ancient mariners from distant lands visited the Americas long before recorded European voyages. And what of the genetic traces? Recent studies of DNA from ancient populations reveal tantalizing hints of unexpected connections. Small percentages of shared genetic markers between indigenous South Americans and populations in Oceania, for example. While still debated, these findings suggest the possibility of transoceanic contact tens of thousands of years before conventional history recognizes it. Even linguistics offers curious puzzles. Certain words, myths, and symbols recur across civilizations that, officially, should have had no contact with one another. Were these the result of mere coincidence, the common needs and dreams of humanity shaping similar responses across different continents? Or were these the lingering fingerprints of an ancient, global civilization, one shattered by catastrophe and rebuilt in fragments, each culture carrying faint echoes of a forgotten unity? Today, standing on a hilltop overlooking the Nazca Plains, or gazing at the pyramids of Giza against the desert sky, or diving among the ruins submerged off distant shores, it is easy to feel that something profound has slipped through our grasp. How much of human history is truly lost? How many of our ancestors' achievements lie hidden beneath forest, sand, and sea, waiting for us to uncover them? And if ancient civilizations were indeed far more interconnected than we have ever imagined, what stories might they still be trying to tell us? As we follow the tantalizing hints of ancient interconnectivity, a new and even more profound mystery rises from the mists of forgotten time. A story whispered across millennia, enduring in legend, yet elusive to the modern mind. A story of a world once vibrant, now lost beneath the waves. At the edge of the Atlantic Ocean, where the restless waters crash against craggy shores and fog drifts across abandoned ruins, one name continues to captivate the human imagination: Atlantis. The tale first surfaced in the writings of the Greek philosopher Plato, nearly 2,400 years ago. In his dialogues Timaeus and Critias, he spoke of a mighty civilization, technologically sophisticated, militarily powerful, and morally complex, that flourished beyond the Pillars of Hercules, the straits we now know as Gibraltar. Atlantis, Plato wrote, was a marvel of engineering. Concentric rings of land and sea circled a grand capital, adorned with gleaming temples, intricate waterways, and gardens fed by masterfully controlled sources of fresh and salt water. Towering walls plated with precious metals rose above the landscape. At its height, Atlantis was said to have achieved wonders that would seem almost magical even today. But then, catastrophe struck. In a single day and night of misfortune, the island nation was swallowed by the sea and vanished from history. Most scholars view Plato's Atlantis as an allegory, a cautionary tale about hubris, divine punishment, and the rise and fall of civilizations. Yet the precision of his descriptions, the vividness of the details, and the enduring fascination with the story raise a question that refuses to fade. What if there was a real place, a real culture hidden beneath the myth? Around the world, curious fragments seem to echo the Atlantis story. In the Mediterranean, the ruins of ancient cities like Akrotiri, buried under volcanic ash on the island of Santorini, reveal evidence of advanced engineering, multi-story buildings, and vibrant art, all destroyed in a sudden, violent eruption. Could the catastrophic end of such a culture have inspired tales of a sunken world? In the Caribbean and off the coast of Cuba, underwater anomalies, puzzling geometric structures, interpreted by some as remnants of streets, plazas, and pyramids, have stirred speculation. Are these natural formations, or the last silent witnesses of a long-forgotten catastrophe? The reshot structure in the Sahara Desert, sometimes called the Eye of the Sahara, presents a compelling geological formation, strikingly similar to Plato's description of Atlantis's concentric design. Mainstream geology explains the reshot as the result of natural uplift and erosion, but its uncanny resemblance to the Atlantean layout continues to fuel alternative theories. Ancient texts from disparate cultures speak of golden ages and great floods. From the Sumerian epic of Gilgamesh to the biblical accounts of Noah, to flood myths of indigenous peoples around the world, stories of civilizations destroyed by deluge are uncannily widespread. Is it possible that these myths are not purely fictional, but distant memories of a forgotten cataclysm that reshaped the world and wiped out entire cultures? And if Atlantis was real, or if it represented a real memory preserved through myth, what might have been the extent of its knowledge? Plato described Atlantis as a civilization at the peak of its power, a society whose reach spanned continents. Its rulers, he said, possessed mastery over engineering, navigation, agriculture, and the arts, skills not typically attributed to humans of that era. Could Atlantis represent a lost chapter of human history? A moment when technology, understanding, and human ambition converged at a level far beyond what we currently recognize for the ancient world? Mainstream historians remain cautious. No definitive archaeological evidence of Atlantis has ever been found. The dangers of confirmation bias, the tendency to see what one wishes to see in ambiguous ruins, loom large. Yet, quietly, the evidence mounts that human civilizations may have risen and fallen in ways more complex, more advanced, and more interconnected than the linear timeline of history traditionally allows. The world's oceans, after all, still guard countless secrets. Beneath miles of sediment and the relentless tides of time, whole cities could lie undetected, their stones worn smooth by centuries of current. Standing on the rugged coasts of Portugal, or gazing out from Morocco toward the endless Atlantic expanse, it is easy to imagine. Could there have been an island kingdom, vibrant and full of life, that once ruled these seas? Is it possible that echoes of its wisdom, its triumphs, and its fall have reached us only through the fragile thread of story? Atlantis remains one of humanity's greatest mysteries, not simply because of what it might have been, but because of what it suggests, that we are, perhaps, only beginning to uncover the true depth and complexity of our own forgotten past. And so the question lingers, suspended between history and myth, between the known and the unknown. Is Atlantis a mere allegory, or a real piece of humanity's hidden story, waiting patiently beneath the waters for us to find it? As we drift further along the murky frontiers of forgotten worlds, the echoes of Atlantis fade, only to give way to an even more enigmatic whisper from antiquity. A name less familiar, yet equally haunting. A civilization said to have thrived before time as we know it. Beneath the swelling tides of the Pacific and Indian Oceans, the legend of Lemuria waits, hidden in the deep. Imagine standing on a remote coastline in the Indian Ocean, where jagged rocks pierce the surf and the sky stretches wide and solemn above the endless sea. The water, a shifting mirror of blues and grays, conceals not just the ocean floor, but possibly entire chapters of Earth's earliest human story. Here, in the quiet rush of the waves, some claim the remnants of an ancient, sunken continent, Lemuria, still slumber. The idea of Lemuria first emerged in the 19th century, proposed by zoologists and geologists to explain puzzling similarities in fossil records across Madagascar, India, and Southeast Asia. They envisioned a vast lost land bridging these regions, a geological solution before the theory of plate tectonics made continental drift the accepted explanation. But while mainstream science moved past Lemuria, the myth only grew deeper. In the accounts of esoteric scholars like Helena Blavatsky and James Churchward, Lemuria became more than just a lost land. It transformed into the cradle of an ancient civilization, one that, according to legend, possessed technologies and spiritual knowledge far beyond our modern comprehension. According to these tales, the Lemurians were a people of towering stature and luminous wisdom. They communicated not through spoken words but telepathically. Their mastery of energy, vibration, and environmental harmony allowed them to build structures and networks that could manipulate the forces of the Earth itself. Of course, mainstream archaeology has found no definitive trace of such a civilization. No crumbling cities recovered from the seabed, no ancient artifacts bearing the marks of a forgotten super society. And yet, across the Pacific and Indian Oceans, curious findings continued to stoke the mystery. Off the coast of southern India, near the town of Mahabalipuram, local legends tell of an ancient city swallowed by the sea, its magnificent temples dragged beneath the waves by an angry ocean. In 2004, after the devastating Indian Ocean tsunami, parts of a submerged structure were briefly revealed, stirring new questions. Were these the remains of a simple coastal settlement, or hints of something more profound, tied to ancient cataclysmic events? Further east, off the coast of Japan, the enigmatic Yonaguni monument lies submerged. Gigantic terraced stone formations stretch across the seafloor, their geometric lines too precise for mere chance, according to some. Are these the remnants of an unknown prehistoric culture, or simply natural rock formations sculpted by millennia of tides? Throughout Polynesia, Aboriginal Australia, and across parts of Southeast Asia, oral traditions speak of great floods, of lost lands, and of ancestors who came from, or disappeared into the sea. Could these fragments point to a real memory buried deep in humanity's collective mind? A remembrance of a world that ended not just in myth, but in geological upheaval? Geologists today acknowledge that during the last ice age, sea levels were hundreds of feet lower than they are now. Entire land masses, coastal plains, and islands, now submerged, were once dry and habitable. Could Lemuria have been a real place after all? Not a mystical continent spanning oceans, but a series of thriving cultures wiped away when the ice melted and the seas rose. The question becomes even more intriguing when we consider the possibility of forgotten technologies. Ancient traditions around the Indian Ocean speak of Vimana, mythical flying machines, of floating palaces, and of energies that could defy gravity. Are these merely imaginative myths, or garbled memories of technology so ancient that they now defy all understanding? Without physical proof, speculation remains just that, speculation. Yet the consistency of flood myths, the strange submerged ruins, and the tantalizing gaps in our own historical record leave space for possibility. And the ocean, covering more than 70% of the Earth's surface, remains vastly unexplored. Scientists estimate that as much as 80% of the seafloor is still unmapped and unseen. Could the ruins of Lemuria, if it ever existed, lie hidden in those dark, silent depths? Even today, sophisticated sonar mapping occasionally reveals curious anomalies, structures that hint at the presence of human-made formations at depths that would have been dry land tens of thousands of years ago. Standing on the rocky shores of Madagascar or Sri Lanka, watching the endless tides erase the boundary between past and present, one can't help but wonder, was there once a thriving civilization here, one whose achievements in harmony with nature, energy, and the very fabric of the earth rivaled or even surpassed our own? And if such a civilization existed, what traces might still remain just beyond the reach of human memory, deep beneath the waves? The story of Lemuria reminds us that history, as we know it, may only be a fragment of a far more profound and complex human journey, one that, even now, waits to be rediscovered. Beneath the vast, sun-drenched plains of the Indian subcontinent, where the Indus River quietly flows through arid landscapes, lies one of the greatest unsolved mysteries of the ancient world. Here, where the earth and the past meet, the remains of an ancient civilization, silent for thousands of years, are slowly revealing secrets that challenge everything we thought we knew about early human achievement. The cities of the Indus Valley Civilization, or Harappan Civilization as it is sometimes called, stretch across the modern-day borders of Pakistan and northwest India. One of the most striking features of these lost cities is the undeniable evidence of advanced urban planning. Harappa, Mohenjo-Daro, and dozens of smaller settlements once thrived along the Indus River, showcasing a level of technological and architectural sophistication that, for its time, seems almost beyond belief. Imagine walking down the narrow, cobbled streets of Mohenjo-Daro. The towering remnants of great walls and carefully aligned buildings form orderly rows, every street meticulously planned and laid out with an almost modern precision. The city's grid-like structure is unlike anything else from its era, carefully thought out to maximize efficiency, airflow, and light. Streets are wide, and buildings are arranged at right angles, a feat of organization suggesting a knowledge of geometry that would not be seen again until the rise of modern city planning centuries later. The discovery of these cities began in the 1920s, when British archaeologists uncovered the once thriving metropolis of Mohenjo-Daro. Immediately, the scale of its sophistication took the world by surprise. The city was not only well-planned, but had access to advanced technologies that raised more questions than they answered. The drainage systems, for example, were unlike anything seen in ancient civilizations of the time. Every house had its own private bathroom, connected to a centralized sewage system that ran beneath the streets. The sanitary engineering alone suggests that the people of the Indus Valley understood the importance of public health in ways that many other ancient cultures had yet to consider. Yet, it was not just their plumbing that set them apart. The people of the Indus Valley mastered the art of baking bricks. They built homes, granaries, and public structures with uniform, standardized bricks that set the foundation for nearly all their infrastructure. There was no haphazard building. Each structure was crafted with careful precision. Even more puzzling is the evidence of advanced metallurgy, with the people of the Indus Valley creating tools and ornaments from copper, bronze, and even the elusive metal, iron, far earlier than previously believed. And then there are the seals, small, intricately carved stones bearing symbols and pictographs whose meaning remains tantalizingly elusive. These seals were used by the people of the Indus Valley to mark goods for trade, yet their script has yet to be deciphered. What were these symbols meant to communicate? Were they an early form of writing? Or perhaps a system of communication tied to something far more esoteric, something we have yet to understand? Despite their achievements, however, there is something unsettling about the story of the Indus Valley civilization. Unlike the great civilizations of Mesopotamia, Egypt, or China, the Harappans left no grand inscriptions, no rulers immortalized in monumental statues, no vast tombs to showcase their power. Instead, their cities, their advancements, and their lives seem to fade into the distance, leaving only the most cryptic of remnants. In 1700 BCE, the Indus Valley civilization collapsed, its cities abandoned, its once thriving trade routes disrupted. The cause of this sudden downfall remains a subject of heated debate. Was it the result of a slow change in climate? Perhaps a shift in the monsoon patterns or a drought that dried up the rivers? Or was it the consequence of some other, more mysterious force? Some researchers propose that a series of natural disasters, such as floods or earthquakes, may have devastated the cities and disrupted the delicate balance of life. Others speculate that internal strife or invasion could have led to the collapse. Still, the more we look, the less clear the answers become. Even more mysterious is the absence of a definitive written record. The Harappans left behind thousands of objects, pottery, tools, seals, but no monumental texts, no inscriptions of rulers, no clear historical record that could explain the fall of the civilization. Were they too advanced to write in a form we can recognize? Or did they perhaps possess a form of communication far more advanced, a knowledge that we have yet to uncover? Could their written script hold the key to understanding not only their culture, but the very reasons for their decline? What is even more perplexing is that the achievements of the Indus Valley civilization seem to exist without parallel in the region. Their neighbors to the west, in Mesopotamia and Persia, had their own distinct cultures, while the people of the Indus Valley seem to have developed their own entirely unique set of technologies, social structures, and urban planning principles. How did such an isolated civilization come to be so advanced? What were they drawing from? Was it knowledge passed down from other ancient, perhaps even more mysterious civilizations? Or were the people of the Indus Valley pioneers of their own extraordinary cultural revolution? And here, too, the ocean of possibilities remains largely unexplored. It is only in recent decades that archaeologists have begun to uncover more clues about the vast extent of the Indus Valley civilization. Its cities stretched far beyond what was previously thought. Even more tantalizing are the recent underwater discoveries near the Gulf of Kambat, where sonar scans suggest the presence of ancient settlements submerged beneath the sea. Could there have been even more advanced technologies lost to the waves? Perhaps technologies we still cannot comprehend? The mystery of the Indus Valley civilization lingers, both a triumph of human achievement and a profound enigma. As more discoveries come to light, we are left to wonder, could we one day unlock the full scope of their knowledge, their technologies, and the reasons for their disappearance? And if so, what will that tell us about the civilizations that have risen and fallen before us, and the secrets they may have hidden beneath the surface for all these years? Deep within the jungles of southern Mexico, in the land that would one day become the heart of Mesoamerica, a series of colossal stone heads rise from the earth like silent sentinels. These monumental sculptures, some standing over 9 feet tall and weighing as much as 40 tons, are the unmistakable marks of an ancient civilization that has long since vanished, yet whose influence still reverberates through the world today. The Olmec civilization, known for its mysterious technological prowess and enigmatic artistry, left behind a legacy that continues to puzzle historians and archaeologists alike. Nestled in the lowlands of Veracruz and Tabasco, the Olmec heartland remains an area of intrigue. The dense tropical forests, with their unyielding humidity and veils of mist, have preserved the physical remnants of this civilization. The most iconic and enduring symbol of the Olmecs is, of course, the giant stone heads. These massive sculptures, each thought to represent a ruler or deity, are made of basalt, a volcanic rock so heavy that it is believed to have been transported from quarries located hundreds of miles away. An astounding feat in an era long before the invention of the wheel or sophisticated transportation methods. The question that has lingered over these stone giants for centuries is simple yet profound. How did the Olmecs, with their limited tools and technology, manage to create and move such monumental sculptures? Some researchers have proposed that the Olmecs used rudimentary sleds and logs to drag the stones, while others suggest the use of rafts to navigate the rivers. Yet, even these explanations fail to fully account for the sheer scale of the project. How did a civilization, with no known advanced machinery, move and carve rocks that would be difficult to shift with even our modern technology? The mystery deepens when one considers the sophistication embedded in the construction of these heads. Each is distinct, with individual facial features that reflect an incredible degree of realism. Wide, flattened noses, full lips, and deep-set eyes. They appear to be portraits, perhaps of specific leaders or gods, each one possessing a striking sense of personality. It's as though the Olmecs were able to infuse the stone with life, making these figures almost eerily lifelike. But the stone heads are not the only evidence of the Olmecs' remarkable skills. Throughout their territory, archaeologists have uncovered elaborate ceremonial centers, sophisticated drainage systems, and large, well-planned urban settlements. At the site of La Venta, the Olmecs constructed enormous platforms and pyramids, designed with precision and alignment to the cardinal directions. The use of mathematics and astronomy to plan these sites is evident, yet no comprehensive written records of the civilization's beliefs or practices have been discovered. How did they possess such advanced knowledge without leaving behind a system of writing? One theory, proposed by some fringe researchers, suggests that the Olmecs may have been in contact with lost ancient civilizations, perhaps those even more advanced than their own, which may have shared with them the secrets of metallurgy, stoneworking, or astronomical knowledge. Could the Olmecs have inherited their technologies from a forgotten civilization, one that predated them by millennia? Or is it possible that the Olmecs were pioneers in their own right, using techniques that have simply been lost to time? Adding to the enigma is the Olmecs' apparent influence on later Mesoamerican cultures. The Olmecs are often referred to as the mother culture of Mesoamerica, as their art, religious practices, and technologies seem to have set the foundation for the Maya, the Zapotecs, and others. The jaguar, which appears prominently in Olmec iconography, would later become a powerful symbol for many of these cultures. And the Olmecs' expertise in metallurgy, with evidence of their early use of jade and copper, foreshadows the elaborate metalworking techniques seen in later civilizations. Yet, for all their apparent accomplishments, the Olmecs left behind very little in terms of written language or clear historical records. The few surviving glyphs found on their monuments remain undeciphered, and their political structures remain a mystery. Did they operate under a theocratic monarchy, where rulers were believed to be divinely ordained? Or was there a different form of governance that guided the people of this early civilization? Some researchers have speculated that the Olmecs might have been more advanced in their understanding of governance, using systems of checks and balances that allowed them to organize and maintain control over vast territories. The Olmecs' disappearance adds another layer to the mystery. By around 400 BCE, the Olmec civilization seems to have experienced a rapid decline, with many of their major centers being abandoned. Yet, there is no clear explanation for this fall. Was it the result of a sudden natural disaster, such as a volcanic eruption or flooding of the river systems? Or perhaps it was the collapse of their social or economic systems, brought on by internal conflict or external invasion. There are, of course, those who believe that the Olmecs were not just another indigenous civilization, but a people with knowledge and abilities that came from beyond the Earth. Ancient astronaut theorists have posited that the Olmecs, like many other ancient civilizations, may have had contact with extraterrestrial beings. The precise craftsmanship of the heads, their size, and the sophisticated engineering required to transport such massive stones, they argue, might suggest that the Olmecs had help from an outside source, whether through advanced technologies or knowledge imparted from beyond our world. Whether one subscribes to these more speculative ideas or not, the reality is that the Olmec civilization remains an enigma, a puzzle with many missing pieces. Their technological and artistic achievements are undeniable, yet the full scope of their knowledge and how they came to possess it remains one of history's great mysteries. The giant heads, silently watching over the jungle, seem to ask a question that we still cannot answer. What secrets did the Olmecs hold, and what were they capable of that we have yet to fully understand? Perhaps the answers lie buried beneath the stones and the earth, waiting to be uncovered. Or perhaps the Olmecs left behind a legacy so advanced, so far ahead of its time, that its full significance will remain beyond our grasp. As we look back upon their achievements, we must ask ourselves, how much more do we have to learn? And how much might still be hidden, waiting for the right moment to reveal itself?